26-year-old factory worker Bree Berry is suing her ex-boyfriend, 28-year-old waiter John Hayden Jr., for totaling her car. Bree says John is a con artist.
Yeah, this is case number 26 on the calendar in the matter of Berry versus Hayden Jr. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Berry, Mr. Hayden was your live-in boyfriend until a while back, and according to your complaint, he took your car without permission one day, drove it. You don't know what happened, but he says he fell asleep at the wheel and he totaled your car. You want the value of that car because you say you were forced to purchase another car and your monthly payments had, of course, increased as a result of purchasing the new car.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hayden says that he had an agreement with you.
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
that right?
Yes.
And that he doesn't owe you anything for the new car. So he's going to tell me all about that agreement in a moment, and I am anxiously awaiting to hear the details of it.
Me too.
Good. We'll all wait together. When did you live with Mr. Hayden, Miss Berry?
I lived with him for about 3 months from at the end of December until about the end of February.
Had you known him for a while before he moved in with you?
We used to go to high school together.
What prompted you to move in together?
I was conned into it. John is a very good con artist.
How were you conned into it?
He figured that we could help each other out by, he didn't have anywhere to stay at that time, and he was working and that he could help me with my bills, and that's not how it happened.
So he moved into your apartment?
Yes, ma'am, just like that. Conned his way right in.
When did he take your car and total it?
It was on February 11th.
Tell me about that, Mr. Hayden.
Well, I did have permission to drive the car. I drove the
Your
car.
Honor.
I had my own set of keys. I drove the car on several occasions. And
Okay, tell me about February 11th, sir.
February 11th, I woke up like I normally did and went to my where I have to go.
Just a second. Oh, listen to me. February 11th, Judge, I woke up at...
Judge, I woke
Look,
up...
no, look at me. Here.
I woke up around 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
And you got out of bed?
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me.
I don't want to hear you yet. He's talking. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You got out of?
I got out of bed.
And who was in bed with you? Look at me. Eyes.
The plaintiff.
Are you sure? Don't speak. Remember what day of the week it was, sir?
It was probably around the end of the week.
Are you sure about that?
As sure as I can be.
What do you mean as sure as you can be?
Because,
Mr. Hayden, I assume you work, right?
I did work until probably 2 weeks ago.
Fine. You were working on February 11th because
Yes.
you started to say to me before, I got up my usual time and I was going to do usual things, so I assume you got up 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning because you were going to...
To my rehabilitation.
What kind of rehabilitation, sir? Is not an answer.
Well, I'd rather not go into it.
Well, you have to tell me, sir, what you were doing, because I'm going to ask you specific questions, and I don't give a rat's behind what you prefer not to go into. Put your hand down.
I was going to get my treatment for my methadone.
Okay, so you were going to your methadone program.
Yes.
I've heard that before, sir. You know, I've been a judge for a long time. You have a morning methadone program?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And where had you been the night before, sir?
At home.
All night?
Yes, ma'am.
So you got up 6 or 7 o'clock to go and get your methadone at the program. And you were, in fact, working. So where were you working?
At Uno's Pizzeria on Beachmont Avenue.
What time do they open?
Around 11 o'clock.
What time do you do at your methadone program?
Anywhere between 6 and...
Look at my eyes.
10.
So what were you doing getting up at 6 o'clock, sir, when you didn't have to be at the pizza place until 11?
Because sometimes I go in early so I can get a few extra hours in.
Good. So you were being conscientious.
Yes, I worked 3 doubles a week plus the other days that I worked. I worked 6 days a week. 3 of them were doubles and 3 of them were regular days.
All right. So you got up between 6 and 7. And you had your own set of keys to the car. You got into the car. And what happened, Mr. Hayden?
I was traveling on my way to the clinic, and I fell asleep at the wheel.
Well, according to you, you'd been home the whole night before. Well, how come you fell asleep at the wheel?
Well, not real sure. I've had problems in the past with driving, falling asleep.
How many times in the past have you had problems driving?
Well, I've never actually wrecked from it, but, you know, I've had several close calls.
And when was that?
Years past.
Not when you were with Miss Berry.
No.
Did you ever tell Miss Berry before she gave you permission to use the car according to you and give you your own set of keys to the car that you've had near misses with falling asleep at the wheel?
I'm sure she was aware.
No, I didn't ask you that question, Mr. Hayden, and I want you to trust me, sir. On your best day, you're not as smart as I am on my worst day. Did you ever tell her that you had near misses of falling asleep at the wheel of a car?
I'm not sure.
Good, that's an answer. Did he ever tell you that?
No, ma'am.
Of course not. Now, was this Miss Berry's only means of transportation, or did she have a garage full of cars?
She had 2 vehicles.
Tell me about the 2 vehicles that she had.
One was a Taurus and the Civic.
And which car were you driving?
The Civic.
Is that the car you were driving, the Taurus?
No, ma'am. That I had a 95 Taurus that had been broken down for a couple months. My only means of transportation was the Honda Civic.
Okay. Miss Berry, tell me about the 10th of February, which was the day before this incident happened.
The 10th of February, ma'am, I was getting tired of being in this little relationship with John because he wasn't working like he said he was. And I had asked him that, you know, pretty soon you need to find somewhere to go. You need to, you know, go live off somebody else. So he had called me from work and asked me to come home so that we could talk about it. And when I got home, about 11 or 12, and John was already drunk and nodding out, because that's one thing that I couldn't stand about him, is that he would always nod out, and he's burnt my furniture on the floor. So anyways, he slept on the couch that night. I slept in the bed. I woke up the next morning. My keys are gone. I always leave my purse next to my bed. I always take my purse everywhere I go. The keys were gone. I got a phone call about 11 from an officer stating that John Hayden was in the hospital, that he had totaled my car. So I called down to the hospital, and John just acted like everything would be all right, that he totaled my car.
So what you're saying is he had driven your car before. There's no question about that. Is that right?
Yes, but he did not have an extra set of keys.
But he had driven your car before, with your permission.
Not with my permission. I would get up in the morning and he would take it.
Well, then what you have to do is you change the locks and you put him out of your house.
That's too much.
Shh. You change the locks, you put him out of your house if he's stealing your car.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. He says ex-boyfriend John Hayden Jr. totaled her car. John says he fell asleep at the wheel on his way to a methadone clinic.
Now there is something that you're going to tell me that would suggest that you had an agreement with her with regard to a new car. So why don't you tell me about that?
After the car was totaled, we agreed that if she was able to get a new car, with which she had no job except for about 2 or 3 weeks.
That's a lie.
So
it doesn't matter if I work or not.
Miss Berry, what part of don't speak don't you understand?
I'm sorry.
When you're on welfare, you can barely...
Oh, my...
Well,
I'm not asking you what she did. I'm asking you what your agreement was.
You can barely make your rent anyway. If it wasn't for me co-signing, she could have never got the car to begin with.
My mama...
Miss Berry, if you open your mouth again, I'm going to dismiss your claim.
Okay.
You don't want that, do you?
No, ma'am.
And I'm serious, you know. I don't say things and then take it back. Do you understand?
I understand.
I want you to tell me the conversation that you had with Miss Berry, sir, with regard to your co-signing a loan for her.
I said, you put down the money you have as a down payment, and then I'll put down what I have, and if they let it go through with both of us being, with me being the co-signer, then you will have your car, and you will go from there.
Did she own the Civic free and clear?
I do not know.
As far as you know, she wasn't making payments because according to you, Miss Berry was on welfare. She could hardly make the rent.
Exactly.
So she wasn't making car payments. So what you're telling me is she took whatever little money she had, and you put in money. And how much money did you put in?
Probably $100.
And you put in $100. And then you co-signed a loan for her so that she could buy a new used car.
Yes.
And how much was the loan for?
About $8,000.
So what you're telling me is because you totaled her car, you obligated her to pay $8,000 for a vehicle to do whatever she had to do with it. Is that what you're telling me?
No.
Then tell me what you're telling me, Mr. Hayden. I'm listening.
I would have been more than happy to stay there with her and be, and help her make her car payments. But she cheated on me when I called her before I came home because I couldn't get a hold of her one day. And she said, well, an ex-boyfriend of mine spent the night tonight, and I don't want you to come here trying to cause any problems. Granted, this is where I was living, paying bills, you know, giving her money. I make about $500 or $600 a week, and, you know, I just would give her money.
If you had, sir, $500 or $600 a week, why don't you get your own car?
Because I don't have a license.
So, Mr. Hayden, so you took her car and drove her car without a license?
I didn't know that at the time. I have an $80 reinstatement fee to pay, which I'm going through now.
Mr. Hayden, you got more stories than Damon Runyon. The fact that you tell me that I gave her $100 towards the car, did he give you $100 towards the car?
Ma'am.
No, of course he didn't.
Oh, you're right.
I couldn't even pay.
Of course he didn't.
I had
Give
to
you
pay for
What year car was this?
a 93.
Do you have the blue book value of it?
Yes, ma'am.
May I see it, please?
Would you like to see all the evidence or just that?
I'd like to see whatever you have, Miss Berry.
And I don't live in Section 8.
You move people in and out all the time.
Oh, goodness.
Ooh, this looks like some bad accident. What did you hit?
A telephone pole. And, you know, she didn't call to see if I was okay. She called to see if her car was okay.
That should have told you something,
Yeah,
Mr.
it
Hayden. Should have.
Yeah, she's self-centered, and karma will get her.
Car was more important than you were.
Exactly.
Right. I am assuming that you are now involved with somebody else.
Yes, ma'am. It was drug use.
No, listen to me. I assume at least in part it was because of somebody else. Part of it may be because of his continued drug use, according to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Whatever. That is not a testament to your good judgment.
It's a bad judgment
no,
I made.
very bad. And I don't care whether you're exercising bad judgment if you're the only one involved, but you have a 5-year-old child. And you don't move somebody into your house for 1 hour who you claim is getting his methadone, but using in addition to that.
That's why I got
you don't
rid
move,
of him.
Just a second. That's not true, madam, because according to you, after he came out of the hospital, you allowed him to move back into your home for a month. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And you don't do that if you're a responsible parent of a 5-year-old. You understand me?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
She's not a responsible parent.
No, and you're a model citizen.
More than her.
Okay.
At least I just use, I don't sell.
That may be, sir, but you still owe her $2,500 for the car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500.
Parties are excused.
Step out.
You may step
Bird,
out.
he can have his water later, please.
John Hayden is a good con artist.
I could really care less.
Anybody that John owes money to,
She's wrong.
you should take him on the Judge Judy show
Bree's a liar.
so you can get your money also.
This is over.
Next case.
All parties in the matter of Armendariz versus Barrett. Step forward, please.
26-year-old retail clerk Lena Armendariz is suing her ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old waiter Ryan Barrett, for an unpaid loan for rent. Ryan is countersuing for his waterbed, rollerblades, and computer.
Miss Armendariz, Mr. Barrett and you lived together for a period of time. He was your boyfriend, and according to your complaint, he ran into some tough financial times, couldn't pay his rent for a few months, and you loaned him the money to pay his share of the rent.
That's
He moved
right.
out, and you want that money back. Mr. Barrett says this was not a loan. You were living together. You were a couple living together. You went into some hard times, and you just covered the rent until he moved out and found his own place. He is counterclaiming because he said at some point he decided he wanted to come back and get his property that he had left behind, and you told him that he couldn't until he paid the rent that he owed you. So he is counterclaiming for his waterbed, rollerblades, and a computer.
That's correct.
When did you move in?
We moved in together in March of 2003.
Did you have a lease?
We did have a lease, yes.
How long was the lease?
It wasn't a specific length of time.
Actually, there was, Your Honor, I have this right here, the lease copy. It's for, it has the date right over right there on there.
Could you show this to the defendant, please? Ask him if that's his signature.
Yes, it's my signature.
That's a lease.
Yes,
So you had a lease.
we had a lease.
The lease was for 1 year. When did you move out?
I moved out in September. Actually, October, rather.
She's not suing you for the rent during that time. When did you stop paying rent?
I stopped paying in the end of September. I didn't pay for October because I was not living there in October.
He was actually, Your Honor.
Just a second. When did you go back to get your property?
I tried to go back and get my property several times, and every time...
According to your answer, you say that you went back in December.
The first time was not in December. The first time was in October, and then again in November.
Okay, in October, did you take any property with you?
I took some property, the stuff that I could fit inside of a small car.
Then you went back again in November.
Right.
What happened in November when you went back?
There was nobody there.
And then, according to you, you went back in December.
Right.
Did you tell her why you were coming back?
Yes.
And what did she say to you?
She said that she would agree to talk to me. And we went to talk. And then she started insulting me. So I left. And when I came back again, I called her again on the way back to the house. And I said, I'm coming for my stuff right now. She said no. I could not have my stuff.
You want to tell me why you moved out?
I moved out because we broke up and she told me to get out.
Is that right?
That is right, but the thing what happened is I was going to let him stay there, until he got himself together and got, money and everything. But I just could not deal with that because, I know it's not very relevant to it, but, the relationship was over. It was very hard to be there.
So you were happy that he left?
Well, yes, I was, because I could not take it anymore. And he wanted to try to work it out, to try to, make payments to me and everything.
I wanted my property back, honestly.
Just a minute. So
he did not say he wanted
Just a second. So when you discussed it, you discussed making payments. Is that right, sir?
I told her that I would...
Just answer my question. Stop tap dancing. I said, did you in fact tell her that you would make payments?
Yes.
Great. And what happened?
What happened? I tried to contact her to set up a time to make payments.
To make payments? Had you come to an agreement on the amount?
I went ahead and I said yes to her amount.
Which was what amount, sir?
It was $900 at the time.
Why didn't that come to fruition?
That did not come to fruition because she wanted to go to a notary and have it done there. So I said, okay, fine. We'll go to a notary. And when I tried contacting her in order to set up a time and date to go, she said, no, I'm busy. I'm busy. I don't have time for this. And I waited for a response. Never got anything.
Okay. So you did agree to pay $900 in payments. Oh, that was a long time getting there. Now, you have his waterbed?
I have...
Just answer my question. You have his waterbed?
Yes, I still have the waterbed and the computer.
Good. And what about the rollerblades?
I never saw any rollerblades. He never told me he wanted the rollerblades. He just said the waterbed and the computer.
Now, when do you want to go and pick them up?
I'd be willing to go pick them up at any time.
Fine. 5 days from today, you can go in the company of a peace officer. I will prepare an order that you may pick up your waterbed and your computer. That takes care of your counterclaim.
That wasn't the only stuff on his counterclaim.
I didn't ask you a thing. It's the only thing that I see on his counterclaim. His waterbed and his computer. She does not have his rollerblades. And as far as the plaintiff's claim is concerned, the defendant finally acknowledges that he owed the plaintiff $900. He was in agreement to make payments on that amount to her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $900. Thank you very much.
You may step out.
He is just very irresponsible and very immature and did not want to live up to his responsibility for what he owed me.
He was completely nuts, so...
I know he was already messing around before we broke up.
I hope I never see her again.
I'm very glad. I am so glad it's over. Once he gets that stuff out, that is it.
26-year-old child care provider Laura Burton is suing her ex-husband, 29-year-old machinist Donald Allen, for the return of her son's belongings. Donald is countersuing for car payments and insurance costs.
It's case number 48 on the calendar in the matter of Burton versus Allen. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks have seats.
Ms. Burton, when were you and Mr. Allen married?
We got married in April of 2001.
And at the time you were married, you had a child, a boy. Is that right?
I already had him, yes.
From a previous marriage or relationship?
Relationship, yes, ma'am.
And how old was that child when you married Mr. Allen?
9 months.
And where is the father of that child?
He lives in the state of California. At the time, he lived in the state of Utah with me.
Does he support the child? Does he support the child?
Right now, no.
Last year, did he support the child?
Yes.
The year before?
Yes.
And the year before?
Yes.
And how much support was he sending for the child?
He paid $167 a month.
So not much.
Not much.
Not enough to support the child.
No, ma'am.
When you married Mr. Allen, were you working?
Yes, ma'am.
Continually employed?
Yes, ma'am.
And who was watching the baby?
The biological father was watching him.
And that remained throughout your marriage to Mr. Allen, that the biological father was watching the baby
No,
while
we
you were
had,
working?
at the point when me and Mr. Allen got married, I had put him in daycare.
And you continued to be employed?
There were points that I did become unemployed.
Large stretches of time?
No, maybe the longest stretch were 6 months.
And during that 6-month period, Mr. Allen supported the household?
Yes.
Supported you and your son?
Yes.
Okay. When were you married, Mr. Allen?
April 25th, 1998.
To her?
Yeah.
Why did she say April 2001?
I don't know. My son was born in 97, so.
You mean the baby?
We had a baby.
Is that right?
Yes.
So that you made a mistake. You were
Yes,
married
ma'am.
in 1998.
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you separate?
It was the end of August, September of 2002.
And when were you divorced?
October 4th, 2002.
Do you have any children together?
No.
So this is what this case is about. Miss Burton is suing you for the return and or value of property, the child's property, child's clothes, games, sporting equipment, etc., etc. That was at your house. Because even after the divorce, you were exercising visitation with him. You coached his ball league,
Up until problems happened. So.
whatever it was, but you were involved with him, so you kept some things at your house. Did he sleep at your house
Yes,
occasionally
Your Honor.
during visitation?
He actually lived with us from March until July
March of what year?
2003.
Why was that?
His mother was unable to find a place to live.
For that 4 months he lived with Mr.
That is
Allen.
incorrect, Your Honor.
How long did he live with Mr. Allen?
Until May.
So he lived with Mr. Allen for 2 months,
Yes, ma'am.
according to you. But since the separation, since you were living together, Mr. Allen has had regular contact with the boy. What's
Yes,
his
ma'am.
name?
His name is Tyler.
And I would assume that Tyler is attached to Mr. Allen.
In a way.
Okay. And your lawsuit wants Mr. Allen to return all of these things. Mr. Allen says, I bought them, and they're staying in my house. I also gather from reading your complaint and his answer that you have decided it's no longer appropriate for Tyler to spend time with Mr. Allen.
It's become unhealthy.
It's become unhealthy because why?
The constant bickering between Mr. Allen and I had told him that it needed to stop. It was becoming unhealthy for everyone in the situation. I gave him a year that I continuously said, we cannot be bickering. We need to stop. Something needs to change.
Bickering about what?
Just little things, mainly my son. He was trying to run my household for me. And
Who is this person?
this is my current husband, Brian.
When were you married?
We got married in November of 2003.
Tyler is 7 years old?
Yes, ma'am.
And what you're telling me, Miss Burton, is that you have decided to cut off the only constant male relationship in your son's life because you couldn't get along with Mr. Allen.
Not only that I couldn't get along with Mr. Allen, but my son is fearful of this man.
I'm not interested in whether you say your son is fearful. I don't believe it. I don't believe if your son is fearful of him, you let him stay there for 2 months while you were trying to find a new place to live. That's baloney. Don't believe it. Not for a second. Anyway, she stopped all contact. Is that right?
Yes, she did.
And you have this property that you purchased.
Yes. Can I
That's-
explain something real quick?
Go ahead.
When we were divorced, we agreed to split his stuff for her home and our home. Everything she bought stayed at her house. Everything we bought stayed at our house. And after she got pregnant the first time, she claims that I was going to let her have the baby clothes or use the baby clothes that I got in the divorce that she said I could have.
What do you mean after she became pregnant the first time? What does that
Well,
mean?
the first time, because she had a miscarriage about a year ago.
That's with her present husband?
No.
With you?
No.
With who?
Boyfriend at the time, or...
Okay. Go ahead.
And then she asked for the clothes when she became pregnant now. And I told her no. And I came to the point where I've done so much.
Mr. Allen, you don't have to explain it to me any further. Mrs. Burton, I don't know how to put this to you. You have one child, you're expecting another. You've got a new husband. Before this new husband, you had a boyfriend with whom you were intimate and got pregnant. I mean, so your life has been up and down. And before that, you had the father of your 7-year-old who you weren't married to. So the only constant that your son has known in 7 years has been this man. When you are a parent, you are not supposed to be a selfish baby.
Ma'am,
I'm speaking. Now, unfortunately, the law does not permit Mr. Allen, who is not related to this child by blood, to seek visitation with him in most jurisdictions. It doesn't mean that he can't sue for custody of this child, because anybody can sue for custody of a child if they believe that the biological parent has so abused or neglected that child as to make it dangerous, emotionally and or physically, for the child to live with that parent. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Which means in most jurisdictions he cannot file for visitation, but if you become a worse mother than I believe that you are, he can file for custody. It is the wrong thing to do to cut off for your son a relationship with this man, which is the only constant he has known for 7 years because of your moving around.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, as ex-husband Donald Allen owes for the return of her son's belongings. Donald claims Laura owes for car payments.
Now, not only aren't you getting the stuff back, but I'm telling you that you better watch your back, because should you do anything that places this child in either physical or emotional damage, he's going to be there.
Ma'am.
And while you may not consent to visitation because you got your nose out of whack, because I believe what he says when he says, she said to me, I'm going to lay down the rules. If you want to see him, I'm going to tell you what the rules are. That sounds like something you would say. And what you're doing is not considering the best interests of your child. And when you don't do that, you're not being a good parent. You're not getting the property back. He bought it for his stepson to stay at his house. Unfortunately, when the marriage was terminated, so was the relationship, the legal relationship of stepchild, step-parent. That you know.
I know.
That you know. And there were other things, Mr. Allen, that you could have done.
I know.
During the marriage, you could have discussed adopting him. That was a possibility. I don't know whether his biological father would have consented to that or not. The law doesn't keep up with the dynamics of our new world. And our new world is that sometimes children become very attached to their step-parents, and it's very unfair for the biological parent to use that as a sword. It's clear to me that there was a time when Mrs. Burton was very, very happy to have you fill in for her son to live with you for either 2 months or 4 months while you were in between residences. That was convenient. It no longer is convenient. I'm sorry. You don't get anything back. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's kind of upsetting. All my son wanted was his personal belongings that are there now.
So many things are put into this little boy's head, like his daddy's abandoned him.
He's the victim. I mean, I have to go home and disappoint him again.
We were best friends. There was no other way around it. Best friends with each other. We did everything together.
I'm thinking of the best interest of my child.
I love you no matter what happens or what anybody says. Your daddy loves you.
And now the next case. Angela Clark is suing her stepfather, security guard Michael Clark, for an unpaid loan. Angela says Michael needed help to get back on his feet after he was released from prison.
That's case number 53 on the calendar in the matter of Clark versus Clark. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Clark, this is your father, is that right?
Correct.
And your mother is standing to your side.
Correct.
You recently lost your sight as a result of an illness.
Viral encephalitis. I was bit by an insect.
You have no vision at all?
Light and dark sensation only.
And when did that happen?
June of last year.
Is there any treatment for it?
No, ma'am. It's permanent.
What kind of work did you do before?
I was an oncology and hospice research nurse.
Your lawsuit says that in 2001, your father was released from a prison term and needed to borrow some money, and you loaned him $1,000. He paid you back, according to your complaint, $300. Now that you are unemployed and money is really an important issue for you, you want the money back, the rest of the money that he promised to repay, $700. And your father says that he paid you back every penny of the money he borrowed. It was $900, but he paid you back every penny. Is that right?
Correct.
When were you released from prison, Mr. Clark?
January 2000.
And how long had you been incarcerated?
5 years.
Tell me about the loan that your daughter made to you. When was it?
It was after I got out of prison in 2000. I did 6 months in a recovery system. After that, I had purchased a car, and the transmission went out, and I borrowed $1,000 from her, which she did not send me $1,000. She sent me $900 because it cost her $75 to send it to me. So
well, that cost her $75 to send it to you, so that's almost $1,000. But for the fact that she sent you the money,
at the present,
she wouldn't have had the expense.
Right. At that time, I was going through separation with my ex-wife, which is here as her witness. She was having me put in jail at the same time, which my parole officer at the same time was understanding.
For what?
Domestic violence.
Okay.
I went to court for it, and it was...
Okay. You started to pay her back when, sir?
After I moved to Columbus.
And when was that?
18 months later.
When did you send him this money?
February of 2001.
And how did you send it? By wire?
Western Union, and that's why I sent him $9.25, because they charged me $75 to send it, and he agreed to that prior to me sending it to him.
When did your father make his first payment?
Well, he wrote me a check, but it bounced.
When was that? Do you remember?
February of 2002. So then he was supposed to pay me when he got his taxes back, but they kept his taxes because he defaulted on a student loan. So he still didn't pay me. I, by then, was financially having some difficulties of my own, and I asked him, I said, since you can't pay me back, like you said, can we make arrangements for $100 a month? So at least I would be able to do what I had to do, and he agreed to that.
And when was the first payment? He
started working at the strip club about 2 months after that, and I got my first payment. He paid me in all quarters. And then...
that would be around August of 2002?
Yes, ma'am. And then the next time he paid me was a month later. He paid me another $100, and that was like in quarters and ones. And then the last payment...
Why were you giving her money in quarters?
Mainly, most of that was tips. Tips made. I was paying her 3 times a week.
That's untrue.
It was in tips.
That was
well, why, Mr. Clark, were you annoyed that your daughter... Listen to me carefully, sir. Were you annoyed that your daughter was asking you for this money back?
No, ma'am.
Well, then, you're a grown man. You can take quarters, and you go to the bank, and you turn in the quarters, and you get dollar bills, or $10 bills, or $5 bills to repay your debt. You don't act like a baby and give your daughter quarters, $100 or $200 in quarters. That's ridiculous.
He could have cashed it at the strip bar.
Sorry, Your Honor.
My tips are ranging from $1 bills to $10 bills to $20 bills. I make at least $500 a night in tips. I give her $100 a night 3 times a week in tips. Sometimes it is all ones.
Don't speak yet.
Yes, ma'am.
Sometimes it is all ones.
Oh.
But never no quarters. And no one uses change in the strip club.
Okay. When did you ask your father again for the balance of what he owed you?
After I got hospitalized in June, I had to go to the Cleveland Clinic for a second opinion on my sight. And I asked my father, well, actually, my mother was going to take me. We went by ambulance, and my father said he would drive up with us and make sure I got back home. But he left me stranded there. I was upset when I got back that he abandoned me when I was in the hospital. So I went to see him in October, and that's when he told me that he had no intention of paying me, that everybody wants something from him, and he can't get what he ain't got.
Well, tell me about that conversation, Miss Clark. You said,
No, well, first I asked him why he left me stranded, because he wouldn't return any of my calls. So finally,
and what did he say to you?
He didn't answer it. He started saying, well, the reason I had to leave you up there is because if you needed blood, I couldn't give you blood.
Blood pressure.
Let her answer.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, let her answer. She's doing just fine.
He said that he couldn't give me blood if I needed blood because he's my stepfather, not my regular father. And I was like, so you left me stranded for blood I never even needed? And then I kept trying to call him on the phone to find out why he left me, but he would never call me back.
So
I finally, when I found him, I asked him, I said, you know, I really need this money. I got a mortgage and a car note. And
what did he say to you?
His exact words were, everybody wants something I can't give them. You can't get what I ain't got, and I ain't giving you nothing. And at that time, I started getting emotional, and my grandmother walked in, and I left.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Angela Clark says her stepfather, Michael Clark, owes for an unpaid loan to get back on his feet. Michael says he was in prison for over 15 years.
Now, sir, I'd like you to tell me when you claim you made payments to, this is your stepdaughter? Mm-hmm. To your stepdaughter.
When I started making payments to her, I'd give her $100 a week, sometimes twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week.
Do you remember when that was, sir?
Every week. After
Starting
the
when?
date of I started work in 2001. It was like 18 months after that, 2001.
After 18 months, you paid her, and it took you just a couple of weeks to pay her off.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have any biological children, sir?
2. I have.
How old are they?
Actually, I have more than that. By my ex-wife, there's my set of twins.
How old are all your children, sir?
They range from 38 to 10 years old.
So how come you asked your stepdaughter for money?
She was the closest one to me.
Yep.
That is true. Just a second. So, of your biological children, nobody would give you money, but you ask your listen to me, you asked your stepdaughter for money, and she gave it to you, right?
Yes.
Now, if that's true, because you say she was the closest to you, right?
Yes.
Let's say she needs $700 now. Let's say, and I'm not saying that I believe you, let's say you paid her. Why wouldn't you just give her $700?
I pay child support. I trade rent. I have to live.
With his mother.
Attorney fees that I have to pay, that I'm still paying. If she really needed the money, I would do whatever it takes to get the money and give it to her.
Well, evidently, sir, she really needs the money. She wouldn't bring you to court, sir, unless she needed money.
Having the children, biological children that I do have, I don't know where they live. I did 15 years in prison. I don't know where they live.
Well,
Angel is the
evidently
only
they
one I
weren't
know.
close enough for you to find out where you were.
Angel is the only one that I knew at the time where she was.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, but he took his daughter to the strip club where he lives. She lives 4 blocks from us. He helped her move into her apartment. He knows where all his children are, every one of us. And I didn't know he was my stepfather until he abandoned me in the hospital, and I still gave him the money.
I have to make a judgment
Yes,
whether
ma'am.
I believe that somebody who opened their heart and gave to a parent / step-parent money when they needed it and waited years in order to get paid back would make up a story about still being owed the balance of a loan, or whether there is a ring of truth to her statement that in response to her saying, I need my money now, you said to her, everybody's looking for a piece of me. They can't get what I don't have. Just like what you said, Mr. Clark. You got children, you got biological children, you got child support, you got lawyers, you got rent, you got everything else to pay. So that sounds like words that probably came out of your mouth. That everybody's looking for a piece of me, and you're going to get disability, and you're going to get workman's comp, or you're going to get whatever else you're going to get, and you're going to be just fine. Stop looking at me. I'm just an old man who's trying to make ends meet. Well, you make ends meet after you pay her back the $700 that you owe her. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $700. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm grateful that I got my $700, but what he did today is going to cost him a lot more than that, because now he has no relationship with any of his children.
She brought my ex-wife in here and just divorced her in December, so she just want to antagonize me.
Well, not only did he leave me straight, did not pay me, but since I've been ill and lost my vision, I haven't heard from him, not once in the last 9 months since it happened to me.
I love my daughter, but when she first told me, when I first found out she was in the hospital, I was concerned about the blood thing. I panicked about it. I got stressed about it.
He didn't want a relationship with me when he owed me money. I'm sure he doesn't want one now that he actually has to pay me the money.
Pauline's mad at me, Dottie's mad at me, Angel's mad at me, half my kids are mad at me because of this family here. So I'm not worried about it anymore. I got a life to live and I'm gonna live it.
Shannon's company manager, Daniel Cruz, is suing his ex-fiancée, Shannon Kelly, for unpaid loans and for damaging his car in a drunken rage.
Yeah, this is case number 88 on the calendar in the matter of Cruz versus Kelly. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir, Have a seat.
Mr. Cruz, Miss Kelly was your former fiancée.
That is correct, Your Honor.
And according to your complaint, you believe that she owes you some money for some loans that were made a year ago by you.
Yes, ma'am.
And also, more recently, that she had a hissy fit about something and threw a potted plant at your car, causing some damage.
Yes.
Ms. Kelly says that while you were generous to her over the course of your relationship, there were never any loans, and she has no clue as to what you're talking about with regard to damaging your car. Who is this person, Miss Kelly?
This is my boyfriend now.
Does he have any particular knowledge of this case?
He does.
About what?
Basically, when we had broken off the engagement, Dan had become very upset with the whole thing, and he'd come to my house making threats, trying to get into my house, and he was there. And
well, that has nothing to do with this case.
Right. So basically,
basically, he's just here as eye candy.
Whatever.
What's the matter? Isn't that right?
Eye candy.
All right. When were you and Miss Kelly engaged?
We were engaged on January 5th, 2004.
For how long?
We were engaged until February 20th of 2004.
And when were these loans, Mr. Cruz?
Loans were done at various times throughout the relationship.
Mr. Cruz, let's get to the biggies.
Sure.
Let's try this. Nothing under $100. I have a $100 threshold that I'm going to hear, sir.
I guarantee there's nothing under $100, Your Honor.
Perfect.
Okay.
Right. Give me the date. And give me what it was for.
Okay. The first one, Your Honor, was for rent that I paid for in May of 2003.
And how much was that,
That
sir?
was for $400.
Tell me the conversation that took place.
The conversation?
Yes.
Okay. I asked her, I said, do you have the money for the rent? And she said she did not have the money for the rent. And she asked if I could front it for her. I said, sure, I'd be willing to do that, but you're going to have to pay me back.
Okay. Now, do you remember that May of 2003?
I did not receive my check through the mail yet, and he did propose to, like, not lend me the money, but to pay for my portion of it.
Okay. Miss Kelly, let's stop there. You say your check didn't come in the mail.
Right.
What check are we talking about?
My disability check.
How much did you get from disability?
I get about $1,000 a month.
What's the nature of your disability?
Mentally have stress, a lot of stress. Basically, I was fired from a previous job for sexual harassment, and from that, it caused me a lot of damage. And so I went to see, I was going to fight against them and sue them.
All right, so you received Social Security disability? Do you still?
Actually, no. As of a few weeks ago, no.
Now, your check hadn't arrived yet. So you must have said to Mr. Cruz, my check hasn't come yet. My check hasn't come yet. Can you front the money for me?
I don't even think I went as far as asking him that. It was, you know, he paid for a lot of things for me.
No, I don't want to hear a lot of things. Listen, I'm a very organized person. We're talking about May of 2003 and your rent. And your rent. So if you were accustomed to paying your rent out of your disability check and your check was late, the common sense would be, can you pay the rent, and when my check comes, I'll give it back to you. That's common sense. I mean, that's what one would think of what was said.
Correct.
Right. And you paid the $400, your share of the rent. Did you ever get your check?
Yeah.
Did you give him back the $400?
I've tried, and he would not accept it because he said that he didn't want it.
Okay. Now, when was the next loan you made to her, sir?
December of 2003, I loaned her money for a couple of sets of car repairs, actually. First repair was December 18th of 2003. That was for $227.
Right.
The other one was December 20th, 2003. That was for $180.
Any other loans, sir?
In January 2004, there was money that I loaned her for medical expenses. I had gotten back from a cruise, okay, so I took her to the urgent care. The cost for that was $237. She did not have the money to pay it. I told her once again I would loan her the money for the $237, but then she'd have to pay me back for that as well.
And those are the loans you're talking about?
There's also one more loan. I'm sorry, I neglected to bring it up. It was in August of 2003. Okay. It was also for repairs for her car, okay, and that was for $281.68.
And you want to tell me about the damage to your car, sir?
January 19, 2004, I was on my way to work. First Monday back from the cruise. On the way to work, I was rear-ended by a lady. At the time, the car was still drivable, okay, but I knew I was going to have to take it into the shop, but knowing that it was going to be in there for at least a week or so, I didn't take it right away. January 23rd, she and I had an argument. She got upset with me. She went outside. My car was parked in front of her house. She took a potted plant. She broke it on my car. Now, I had made an insurance claim on the damage that the other lady caused me. However, I didn't make an insurance claim on what she had caused because I didn't want there to be any type of legal recourse against her as far as
you were
criminal.
engaged.
Right.
And you stayed engaged for another month.
That's correct.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Bill Cruz says ex-fiancée Shannon Kelly owes for unpaid loans and for smashing a potted plant on top of his car.
Okay, let's hear about the potted plant, madam.
I don't know what he's talking about, actually. We fought all the time.
So you mean he's making this story up?
Or if somebody else did it, he never I mean,
no.
There's, I don't know what he's...
Anything else you want to tell me?
Yes, that this is not true. With the car repairs, he called me and said that he had a surprise for me, that he had recovered some funds that he wasn't aware of and that he wanted to get my car out. And I said, no, I didn't want to. I'd rather pay for it myself, and he insisted. Okay, he decided to do that. When I did get my check, again, I did give him back $200 because I didn't want anything from him.
Why didn't you want anything from him?
Because he would use it against me and throw it up to me and make me feel terrible in fights.
What kind of work do you do, sir?
I'm a branch manager for a finance company.
Are you currently employed, Miss Kelly?
No.
And how do you support yourself, on disability?
I was up until recently, so now I'm going to find a job.
Do you live with this gentleman here?
Yes, I do.
Do you work?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a carpenter.
Okay. Here's your problem, Mr. Cruz. Of the 5 loans that you've made to her over the course of a 6 or 7 month period, she had not made any payments. Is that right?
That is correct.
That's not a loan. That's what you give to your girlfriend. I find that it's unreasonable to believe that if, in fact, this engagement came to fruition and developed into a marriage, that we wouldn't be standing here today. Right?
Well, that's...
Not well.
Not necessarily.
Well, not necessarily. I'm telling you that if you and Miss Kelly married, we would not be standing here today. You're angry. She didn't give you a lot of money. You gave her a lot of money. I mean, altogether, it doesn't amount to a whole lot of money over the course of a relationship that spanned a couple of years. But those aren't loans. Loans get repaid. Even marginally, they get repaid. And anybody you're in finance?
Yes.
Doesn't loan more money when the first loan hasn't been paid. And doesn't loan money for a third time when the first 2 loans haven't been paid. And doesn't loan money for the 4th time when the first 3 loans haven't been paid. Because if you do that, you're soon going to be out of business. Unless you're operating from your heart. Because you're involved in a relationship. And then it no longer becomes an arm's length contract. It becomes a situation where, well, if the relationship works out, so it's over. But if it doesn't, I don't want to be out this money. So, Mr. Cruz, get over it. Let me see pictures of the car where she dropped the potted plant. What's in that box?
Unfortunately, Your Honor, I don't have pictures, okay? And the reason being for that is because she called me the next day. She apologized to me for doing it. And when I went to her house, I showed her what she had done to the car. She didn't realize it. And she looked at it, she said, I'm sorry. She said, but you are lucky. I meant to put it through your windshield. And I said, well, if you put it through the windshield, it probably would have cost less. I don't have pictures, but I do have the pieces of the pot that she broke on it. That's what's in the box.
You think, sir, that that I'm going to look at the pieces of the pot without pictures of the car? Mr. Cruz.
Yes.
And she called you up and she apologized. Let me ask you this question, Mr. Cruz. Between the 23rd of January, when she caused this damage to your car, is that what you told me?
Yes.
Okay. And February 20th of 2004, you were in fact engaged. Is that right?
Yes.
Were you intimate during that period?
Yes.
You forgave her. You forgave her, sir. She feels as if you forgave her. I feel as if you forgave her. You got to put a period and say, I'm moving on. And whatever money it was, it's a cheap lesson. And I'm very, very lucky that I didn't hook my wagon to this star, which would have caused you in the long run in your life, Mr. Cruz, far, greater damage. You could have done the absolutely unthinkable and stupid thing to have married this lady.
True.
Right?
Right? That's true.
Instead, this gentleman's going to marry her. It's going to be his problem.
Let him deal with it.
Right? Right.
Yeah, let him deal with it.
That's all. Good luck, sir.
Yep.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's getting hers now. I mean, you can see with what she's with and what she's doing now, which is nothing, and what she'll always become in her life is nothing.
Basically, he just wants to, demolish whatever life that I do have.
She was cheating on me with the gentleman she brought in the courtroom today.
He was tried to commit suicide a couple times over me. He even was put into the hospital for 4 days in the mental institution for throwing me across the room and bruising my tailbone.
Look out for freeloaders like this one over here. She's going to cost you a lot of money, cost you a lot of heartache, and she laughs over here, but I'm going to get the last laugh when I see what her life has become.
20-year-old therapist Tracy Lynn Ford is suing her ex-boyfriend, 20-year-old newspaper distributor John Normandin, for an unpaid loan to pay off his truck. John says he has no obligation to pay her back.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 103 on the calendar, the matter Ford versus Normandin.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Miss Ford, how long did you and the defendant live together?
Probably about 1.5 to 2 years.
And it is your claim that sometime within that period of time, you accepted a loan from your mother. He accepted a loan from your mother. The check was given physically to you, but the loan was for the purpose of him paying off his truck.
Mm-hmm.
And it was clearly understood between the three of you, the defendant, and your mother, that it was his responsibility to pay her back.
Yes.
You broke up. Mr. Normandin said, not my loan, it's her loan. It's her arrangement with her mother. I never made the arrangement to pay her back. Is that right, sir?
That's correct.
So you bought a truck when, sir?
About 6 months before we got together. I bought the truck and was making payments on it with all my own funds. Was trying to save up to pay it off because of the high...
Slowly, I'm old.
Because of the high interest rate and the high insurance costs for full coverage on the vehicle, I need to get it paid off as quick as possible. So I was working 3 jobs, saving as much money as possible. I saved up about $11,000 of my own money to pay it off within a 4-month period of time. And I only needed another $1,000 or so to finish it off. And at that time, she agreed she would help me out with that.
Tell me the conversation when she agreed to help you out with that. Tell me, I want to hear the conversation.
I told Tracy that if I paid off the truck sooner, there'd be more money available for us to get other things for us both to use. And she said, after I told her that she would help me out by asking her parents to see if she could borrow some money to help me pay it off. There was never agreement for me to pay it back. It was all her own. I mean, we helped each other out. I mean, I got things for her, she got things for me. I figured this is her helping me out. That's as far as I took it. I didn't know it was a loan on my behalf.
Were you covering your own bills in addition to the truck stuff?
Yes, I was.
Was she working?
A little bit here and there. She had a full-time job, but she wasn't making that much money.
You said if I could get this paid off faster, I'd have more money for us and our bills. So she agreed to get a loan from her mother.
Yes, ma'am.
And you got the money?
With the agreement that if he didn't pay it back, that I was held responsible. But I didn't benefit from it.
When you made that agreement with your stepmother, was he present?
Yes.
Where were you all?
We were in our house, and he made me call my stepmother. I called her, asked for the money. Then she asked to speak to John. She spoke to John. The agreement was made between them that she would send $1,000 and that he would pay her back either right away or in increments with the money that he was saving from not having insurance.
Okay, now when was that check written?
March of 2003.
How much after that did the two of you break up?
We broke up about 3 months.
It was in November, Your Honor.
We broke up.
November of 2003?
Yes, that's correct.
Who was this person?
Didn't.
Who was this person?
This is my husband.
Okay. When were you married?
We got married January 15th.
When did you break up with Mr. Normandin?
I'm sorry, it was 2002. My mistake.
We broke up in June of the last June that we just had.
June of 2003?
Yes.
And the truck loan was March of 2003?
Yes.
So 3 months later?
Yes.
Oh. And when you left, you took the truck, sir?
Yes, I did.
Had things started to deteriorate between you and the plaintiff at that point?
They'd been deteriorating for a while before that, and the check her mother sent her was way before that. It was in 2002 she received that check because I tried...
Can I see the check, please?
Sure. That's the check.
Date of the check is March 11th, 2003, sir.
Then I must be mixing something up because
Well, then you mixed up.
I moved out a year and a few months after we broke up. We had a lease together. It ended November of 2002. I lived with my father for a year and a few months. I have receipts for every month since then from him and a signed lease agreement from him.
I'm not interested in a lease from your father.
But she's saying that we lived together.
I'm not interested in a lease from your father. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me see the paperwork when you paid off the truck.
I don't have that.
Why not? I'd be interested in seeing that, not a lease from your father.
It's been at least a year since I paid off that truck.
Listen to me carefully, sir. I'm not interested in a lease from your father. I would be interested to see when you paid the truck off.
I didn't believe I needed that.
Well, you were coming here about a truck, were you not?
I thought I was coming here about money that
No,
was borrowed.
you were coming here about the truck, correct?
It's not what I understood.
Why would you bring a lease instead of the payoff payments for the truck?
Because the payoff
There's no
had nothing
logical reason for that, sir.
The payoff had nothing to do with that loan.
There is no logical reason why you would bring a lease. This isn't about rent.
I understand that.
That's not logical that you would bring totally irrelevant paperwork instead of bringing paperwork that could be marginally related to this case. It just doesn't make sense. Now, what I want to see is the check that you indicate he gave your mother for $500. That I would like to see, and then stop payment on it.
I would love to give it to you, but he sent the check, and then he either went to Texas or California. I think it was Texas to visit his brother. Called me, told me to call my stepmother, tell her not to cash the check. So he didn't put a stop payment on it. He just told me to tell her not to cash it. She did not cash it. She can't find it, unfortunately, because
don't tell me why she can't find it, because she's not here to tell me that.
Actually, she's in the back.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Could you bring her in, please?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. C. Lynn Ford says ex-boyfriend John Normandin owes for a loan to pay off his truck.
When did you send a check for $500?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
Yeah, it was in May.
May of what year?
2002, I believe.
Let me see the check register.
Why would you pay for
The whole
Shh.
Let me see the whole check register. What was the name of the company that you had a loan for the check?
I don't recall.
Think hard.
I can't remember. I've had a lot of loans since then.
I'm just talking about your truck loan, so you still have the truck?
Yes, I do.
Well, if you still have the truck and you wrote out a check for $11,000, one would think that you would remember.
It was over a year and a half ago. I've done a lot since then.
Mm-hmm. You sent her this $500, sir, after you had made all the payments that I see here for the truck.
The payoff wasn't a written check from me. It was
No,
a
I
cashier's
understand.
check from the
I
bank.
understand that. What I'm saying is you made payments for the truck, $500 payments for the truck to Chevrolet.
That was when I first bought it.
Listen carefully to me. After your last payment for the truck that is registered here, you sent her a check for $500.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what you're telling me is that was not in return of a loan.
It was a joint bank account between me and Tracy Lynn. When the bills were due, I wrote most of the checks.
Yes. Shh. Sorry. Just a minute.
So the money was both of ours together. Every penny I made, she had access to. Everything she made, I had access to.
Sorry.
I am correct that after you paid off the truck, which included her $1,000, you wrote out a check to her for $500.
Yes, ma'am.
And what happened with that check?
Tracy called and said that John did not have money in the account to cover it, and if I could hold it for a short period of time.
So what did you do with the check?
We held it And recently I looked for it.
Now, you have the truck, and she has the debt.
I assume so.
Why is that reasonable, sir?
Well, I owned every penny I paid on that truck was my money.
No.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't. You had a specific discussion, and the specific discussion with this young lady was, I need another $1,000 to pay off the truck so that I can stop working the 3 jobs and just put all the money into the truck, but we can start living more reasonably.
It wasn't an I, it was a we. We needed the money to pay off
Well, then
the
how
truck.
about I do this, sir? How about you take out your wallet, give me the registration for the truck, and I will have you sign the truck, half of it, over to the plaintiff. How about that? Would you like to do that? Take out your wallet and give me the registration. Take out your wallet and give me the registration. Then we do a we. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Don't be a smarty with me. You're going to lose. We happens when 2 people are married. When 2 people aren't married, you don't have we. You have yours and you have hers. You got the truck, she's got the debt. There is something wrong with that. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's been hard because he refused to pay the money back when he knew he needed to.
We had an equal sharing relationship, and I guess it wasn't as equal as I thought it was.
It's put a lot of stress on me because I don't want to owe my stepmother money, and it was my thing to pay when he wouldn't pay it.
She needs money badly because she's pregnant and has no money.
I have plenty of money. We've got a nice house. I don't need his money.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Up versus Rodriguez. Step forward, please.
Web coordinator Debbie Up is suing her former co-worker, computer consultant Thomas Rodriguez, for unpaid rent and a loan to buy a computer. Thomas claims Debbie gave him the computer as a gift.
Miss Up, Mr. Rodriguez was a friend of yours. You allowed him to move into your house for a short period of time. You claim that he owes you for a month's rent.
Correct.
And in addition, you advanced him on your credit money to buy a computer.
Correct.
According to you, he agreed to make the payments to the company. He made a couple, but when he left, he stopped making the payments, and you want those payments.
Correct.
Mr. Rodriguez says that the computer was very lovely, but it was in fact a gift from you. And second, he says that he doesn't owe you any money for rent. He was out of your home, and you had agreed to allow him to store some stuff there until he could get it out, but he doesn't owe you for the month, I think it was July. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Why did you move into Miss Up's home, sir?
Well, at the time, I didn't have a place to stay, so
Why didn't you have a place to stay?
Well, I had an argument with the girlfriend, and I didn't have a place to stay, and she offered me a place to live at.
How did you know her?
I know her from work. We worked with each other before, and I've known her for about 3 years.
What kind of work?
Auto sales.
Why did you invite him to come to live in your home?
Well, we had been friends for a couple of years, and we had done a lot of stuff together, hung out together, gone to movies together, things like that.
Just the two of you?
Yeah. I knew he needed a place to live, and I had an extra bedroom, and I said, you know, for a couple $100 a month, you can rent my room in my house.
Did he give you any money towards rent while he lived there?
Yes, he did. He moved in the end of November, actually Thanksgiving weekend. He paid me for the month of December mid-month. I had agreed that he could pay me mid-month instead of being strapped at the end of the month.
Fine. So he paid you for December, January, February, March, April, May, and June?
And June.
What happened in June?
In June, he, as he said, he had gotten back together with a girlfriend. He ended up not spending a lot of time at home while they were renewing their relationship. So he spent many nights away, still had a key, still had a garage door opener, came and went as he pleased. And
still had clothes there?
Still had clothes there. He had...
This was the month of June or July?
Actually, both. He, I guess, renewed this relationship sometime in mid-June, and throughout July they kept going and decided that that was going to be... I presume that they're still in a relationship. I have no idea.
Good. When did you get your last bit of stuff out of the house, sir?
End of June, early July.
Well, you have to pay for July if you still had stuff there in July, sir.
Well, I had already previously paid her for that month already in the middle of June. Like on June 21st was the last time I paid her for the rent.
Did you stay there at all in July?
No, I wasn't there at all in July.
Yes, you did. He, like I said, he came and went as he pleased in June, and in July, in fact, he spent July 4th weekend at home because I guess his girlfriend was out of town.
Does that sound familiar?
No, actually, July, I wasn't there at all.
July 4th weekend she's talking about,
yeah,
sir.
July, I was just there to pick up my personal items.
Okay.
I'm
All
sorry,
right, let's get to the computer, which is really what we're talking about, because the rent is $200. Let's get to the computer. When did he buy the computer?
In May, I had agreed that he could use my credit with the conditions that he would make the monthly payments, but he had also said that he would try to pay it off as soon as possible because he doesn't like to have debt. He made the computer arrived. He made the June payment of $103. He made the July payment.
Who did he make the June payment to?
Actually, he paid me, and then I paid the company.
Gave you in cash?
Check.
You have a copy of the check, sir?
No, I don't have any copy of the check.
Why not?
I didn't realize I would need it.
Copy of your check register, sir.
No, actually, I don't have that with me.
Why don't you have it with you?
I wasn't aware that I would actually need it.
Of course you need it. Where did you think you were coming? Why would she, Mr. Rodriguez, buy you a computer worth thousands of dollars?
She said it was a gift. She said that...
Mr. Rodriguez, I want you to listen to my words. Why would she buy you a gift worth thousands of dollars?
Because she had feelings for me.
And you had no feelings for her?
No, I told her...
The answer is either yes or no. Is that right?
Yes.
So you had no feelings for her in any other way other than a friend. So why would you encourage her feelings for you by accepting a gift worth thousands of dollars?
I figured, I thought about it, and I figured I wouldn't look at a gift horse in the mouth, and I figured, I would take it.
Oh, dear.
Do you honestly, Mr. Rodriguez, believe that this lady finds you attractive?
Actually, what happened was, about a month in June, she actually told me...
She's an intelligent, appears to be at least an intelligent, working woman. Why would she spend thousands of dollars on you when you can't even afford a decent place to live?
Well, that wasn't the case. The thing was I was just trying to avoid getting into a lease.
Just a second. You mean you could afford a decent place to live?
Yes.
You have children, Mr. Rodriguez?
I have a daughter.
How old?
13.
Do you support her?
Yes.
How much do you send?
$285.23 every 2 weeks, so about $600.
Do they take that money out of your pay, sir?
Yes, I have taken out my check each month.
No, they take it out of your pay. Because there was probably a time when you weren't paying regular child support, so they decided to take it out of your pay, correct?
Well, I would make payments arrangements with her mom.
Listen to what I'm saying, Mr. Rodriguez. I'm 10 steps ahead of you, sir. You weren't making regular child support payments, so they decided to do it by income deduction order and taking it out of your pay. Does that sound right?
Well, no, I've always paid her mom, for whatever she needed.
You mean diapers for your teenage daughter and things like that? Diapers, Pampers, formula, that kind of thing.
Clothes, whatever she needed. Even, purchased her mom a car when she didn't have no transportation.
Let me see the bill for the computer.
This is the original.
Who use other people, Mr. Rodriguez, especially those people who rely on the fact that they think somebody, I'm speaking, that they think somebody is lonesome, and because they're lonesome and they need company, they're prepared to pay for that company, which is clearly what you thought, which I think is probably one of the most amoral things one person can do to another. We understand each other, Mr. Rodriguez?
No,
Do we understand me? That doesn't mean that you will like what I said. I want to know if you understand what I said.
I hear what you're saying.
You're going to eat the rent. But you're going to get your $2,900 for your computer. Original price of the computer was $3,152. According to you, we made 2 payments of $103, $104 each.
Correct.
It's $2,900. You still have the computer, sir?
Yes, I do.
Are you enjoying it?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Rodriguez, are you trying to think ahead of what would be the right answer when I'm asking you a question so that you don't again put your foot in your mouth? Is that why you're pausing?
No, I'm just listening to what
Got it. Judgment for the plaintiff, the amount of $2,900.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I had offered several different suggestions, like him financing it through another bank, then we wouldn't have to talk to each other anymore. It seemed to be on his part that he didn't want the friendship to continue.
You would have to think, kind of twice about, saying no, but like I said, who would want to look a gift horse in the mouth?
It seemed to be on his part that he didn't want the friendship to continue.
Well, on several occasions, she's, asked me if I had feelings for her, and I told her, it was just, friends and nothing more.
I did ask him once just to clarify, if there was anything beyond friendship that he wanted, and once that was clarified, that was it.
Michael Musgrove is suing his ex-girlfriend, student Kathleen Spear, for running over his dog and crashing into his house. Kathleen says the accident wasn't her fault.
Guys, case number 200 on the calendar in the matter of Musgrove versus Spear. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Mr. Musgrove.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant used to be your girlfriend.
Yes.
And then she moved on to what she considered greener pastures, and she became your roommate's girlfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
You tried to get the logistics of it, but you had a house, and your roommate was in a house behind your house?
Yes, guest house.
Guest house.
Yes.
And Miss Spear moved into that guest house with your roommate?
Supposedly, yeah, she was there quite often.
Oh, she was there quite often.
Right.
Your complaint is that on one of the days when she was visiting your roommate, she ran over your dog and ran into your patio, causing damage to your house.
Yes, ma'am.
You want her to pay all the vet bills and pay the damage that she did to the house. And Miss Spears says you're just being unreasonable. Were you at home when this happened?
Yes, I was.
Tell me when it happened.
Memorial Day weekend, the 29th, I guess it would be the 30th. It was 12:30 at midnight.
12:30, that would be in the morning, Mr. Musgrove.
Sorry.
Are you nervous?
Yes.
Are you nervous being here?
Yes.
Do I make you nervous?
A little bit.
Perfect. Okay, so at 12:30, that's in the a.m.
Correct.
Tell me what you heard.
I heard a car coming up my driveway. Not exactly slow. I heard a loud yipe, which was my dog, and a pretty decent crash, which was my patio cover.
Now, where had your dog been?
He was in the backyard on a run. I have about a 50-foot cable run. He's on a leash. That's where I tie him up during the day.
What kind of dog is it?
They're pit chow.
Combination pit bull and chows?
Yes, ma'am.
How many do you have?
I have 2.
And how old was the one that was hit by Miss Spear?
They're 5 years old. They're both brothers.
Are they friendly?
Yes. If, of course, they know you.
If they know you, they're friendly?
Yes.
Okay. So you went outside?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what you saw.
Walk out. Actually ran out. See my dog limping out from behind her car, and of course bleeding from his rear foot. His foot was smashed completely. It looked like, say, a duck's foot, if that's what you want to describe it. My patio cover was ripped from the house and pulled down. One of the pillars was knocked out. Concrete was broken out of it where it was fastened to the ground. We went through a big argument on it.
Had an argument with her. Did she get out of the car?
Yes, she did.
What did she say when she got out of the car?
Oh my God, you know.
And what did you say to her?
Well, you want the exact words or roughly?
I've been around. I've heard everything.
Okay, well, pretty much, you know, what you doing? What you doing in my driveway? You know, you're not supposed to be back here. What did you do? Like, you tore up my house, you hit my dog.
Why wasn't she supposed to be back there?
I've asked several times not to park on the property. They didn't want, you know, oils and stuff all over the drive. My drive for myself to park, and the drive also for the tenant to park.
Do you own this house?
Yes, I do.
So you rent to Miss Spears' then current boyfriend?
The current boyfriend I rent to. Miss Spears was my girlfriend at the time, so.
She wasn't your girlfriend at the time when she hit the dog?
No, so she wasn't my tenant.
No, I understand that. Okay. Just follow what I'm saying. Try not to be too nervous. I only digest litigants on Thursday. This is Thursday. Okay, you took your dog to the vet. Do you have the vet bills?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see them, please.
These are the vet bills. These are the pictures. This is the bill also for the awning. I don't know if you need that right now. Okay.
Dog had surgery?
Yes, ma'am. Close to 20 stitches, if I'm not mistaken.
How's the dog?
He's doing okay now. He's still having trouble getting around, but he's doing all right.
Doing better?
Yes.
Okay, Miss Spear, now I'll hear you. May 30th, 2004. Coming home, it's 12:30 in the morning.
It was actually earlier than that. It wasn't 12:30. It had to be about 10:30.
Okay.
And wasn't coming down the driveway any faster than you would come down a driveway. But he leaves his dogs out purposely when I go over there. It's like he knows I'm afraid of his dogs. It's like we've always had a problem with his dogs. He leaves them out on purpose. The night that I came home, it was like...
Wait 1 second. The night that you came home, were you a tenant of the place?
No, I was at Aaron's house.
So you were visiting someone?
Yes.
Who was a tenant of the plaintiff's?
Yes.
So he doesn't have to do anything to satisfy you. If you're afraid of his dogs, that's too bad. Go ahead. So you're coming home from where?
I was coming from my house, actually, no, over to Aaron's house to meet Aaron over there. I actually have my own house. I just refer to... It's my boyfriend's house, so I refer to it as home, whatever. I was on my way from my home.
What kind of work do you do?
Huh?
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a student.
Student of what?
I attend Oxnard College.
For what?
Addictive disorders.
Hmm?
I major in addictive disorders.
You major in addictive... You major in addictive disorders?
Yes.
Are you in a program?
Am I in a program?
Yes.
No.
Have you ever been in a program?
No.
Do you need a program?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Michael Musgrove claims his ex-girlfriend Kathleen Spear ran over his dog. Michael says, in doing so, she crashed into the side of his house.
Okay. You're on your way to pick up your boyfriend or to meet your boyfriend at his house from your house.
Mm.
Go ahead.
And I came down the driveway, and it was dark. As I'm pulling in, I saw the one dog in his front window. I assume they were both in the house. So as I'm coming down the driveway, the next thing you know, I run into the black dog. But I didn't run over his dog and we ran over his foot. And it was there's like a scratch on his foot. It's not like something that, in my opinion, required all that surgery. And I even offered to pay for part of the bill and stuff. But
who was supposed to pay for the other part?
The one who left his dog outside.
It's his house.
Yeah, but on a lead that's so long that it goes right across the driveway almost to the front door of the tenant's house.
It's his house.
The rental property in the back is all considered...
You don't live there.
So if Aaron had ran him over, it would have been different?
Why are you asking me questions? I sit here, you stand there. I ask you questions, you answer the questions. Aaron didn't run him over. You ran him over. Aaron didn't damage his house. You damaged his house. What were you going over there for at 10:30 at night?
To meet Aaron.
To do what?
I think it's any of your business.
Oh, no, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I have to ascertain whether earlier in the evening you had been either drinking or doing drugs, whether or not you were intoxicated or high, because this was clearly a house that you had been to frequently. You knew that the dogs were on long leads. You knew that he kept them outside. So one would expect you to be either very careful when you came up to the house, or if you weren't very careful, perhaps you were, I don't know, doing a scientific test with regard to this program that you attend at college. In any event, I have had enough playing with these people. You owe him for all the damage that you did to both his house and his dog. His vet bills alone were $1,856 for both surgeries, subcutaneous fluids. They indicated that this was a severe wound. I have seen the pictures of it. This was not a scratch. He had additional damage to his home of $2,542. I suggest that when you're not in your program, you find some way to compensate him. Judgment for the plaintiff, $4,398. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
This foot was hurt. It wasn't all splattered.
Well, it was beyond a scratch.
It's not exactly a duck foot. Some of the skin's peeled off.
There was surgery involved.
Okay, that one looks pretty bad.
There was a lot of blood.
This one looks pretty bad.
Whether she had been drinking that night or not, I didn't have time to find out.
I guess I feel bad. I hurt the dog.
16-year-old Erica Mandair and her mother, Deborah Segura, are suing Lavinia Kennard. Her daughter, 15-year-old Brittany Williams, and her nephew, 17-year-old Cornell Martin, for an assault. Erica says the defendants beat her up during an argument at a mall.
Now it's case number 210 on the calendar in the matter of Segura Mandair versus Kennard Williams Martin. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
What's your first name?
Erica.
And your last name?
Mandare.
You're a mother, Ms. Segura, is that right? Now, Ms. Segura, you're really suing on behalf of your daughter because you claim that your daughter was assaulted by these two people who were being supervised by Mrs. Kennard.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Mrs. Kennard's daughter, and this is Mrs. Kennard's nephew. According to your complaint, you dropped your daughter off at a mall. She was meeting up with her friend, cousin Jennifer. Got a call about an hour later, crying, indicating that she had been assaulted. But you really don't know anything about this matter yourself. It's your daughter. So why don't you have a seat for a moment? Erica, on what date did you go to the mall?
June 11, 2004.
And it was just you and your cousin Jennifer who were planning to meet that day?
Yes.
Tell me what happened with Miss Kennard's daughter and nephew.
We had been in the store and we went over to look at the shoe section. Brittany and Cornell were sitting down and they looked at us and started laughing. They were talking about my makeup. Brittany said, "Wow, look at her makeup, she looks like a clown." And so I was like, I get that all the time, people talking about my makeup. And so we walked to go pay for our things at the counter. And the witness, the one that's sitting down.
This young lady?
Yes. She was up there and they walked up to her and told her about me. And then she looked at me and started laughing. I was like, okay, I still didn't think anything of it. So I paid for my stuff and we were walking out. And then all of a sudden I hear the mother, she started laughing really loud. And I looked back and she said, "What are you looking at?" And so I was like, why?
And make sure you tell me exactly what you said, because even if you said something disrespectful at the time, I want to hear the truth. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I said, "Why do you guys have to talk about me? We didn't do anything to you." And then she started getting really loud, just their hands up and everything. And then they started walking to us, and me and my cousin we walked back.
Walk back towards them.
Walked back towards the counter, got back into the store.
Why didn't you just keep going?
Because both times I didn't think anything of it, and there were so many people in the store, and I was like, why? We didn't do anything. Why are we being humiliated? So,
you're right.
So I was like, no, I have to say something.
So what'd you say?
I told him, I said, why are you talking about us? We didn't do anything to you.
What was wrong with her makeup that day?
I didn't say nothing about it. I didn't say anything about it.
What did you say?
No, because me and him was having a conversation.
What did you say?
Nothing.
What were you and Cornell having a conversation about?
A movie, Medea.
A movie, Medea?
Yes.
What was the movie Medea about? Even she can't keep her mouth straight. Look at her. She can't stop from smiling. Do you understand?
Yes.
Right?
No.
Why do you think all this problem started, young lady?
I don't know. Me and my cousin were just having a conversation about the movie, and I guess she thought we was talking about her.
And what did she say to you?
So she turned around and I guess she asked her cousin if is that a he, she, is that a girl or a boy? And Cornell, my cousin, turned around and said, "What happened?" She was like, "I wasn't talking to you." So me and him went back to our conversation, and I guess they walked to the counter. That's when my mom came over there. My mom walked over there, and we walked over there.
Oh, walked over where?
To the counter. And as we was walking to the counter, they was leaving, and they turned around and they mugged my mom. My mom asked them.
What do you mean they mugged your mom?
Like, gave her a crazy look.
Show me how they did that.
She was like, they just turned around and looked at her like this.
You mean like this? Is that what you're doing? Yeah. So
and
they turned around and gave your mom a look.
And my mom was like, "Do you guys have a problem?" And she was like, "Well, yo, she's over there talking about it." My mom said, "What he, she? This is my daughter and my nephew." So she said, "What are you talking about?" She was like, "Well, they over there talking about us, and we ain't saying nothing to them." My mom was like...
So this young lady said, "Why are they talking about us? We didn't say anything to them." That's what she said to your mom. Is that right?
Yes.
What happened next?
So after she asked her, my mom was like, "Well, nobody was talking about you. They was talking to each other, and they was talking to me. So where did that come in that they was talking about you?" She was like, "Well, they was over there laughing and giggling and looking at me and laughing." And my mom said, "What was they talking about then?" She was like, "I assume they was talking about my makeup." And my mom was like, "Well, what's wrong with it? There must be a problem with it if they was talking about you." And the girl was like, "Well, I don't know." And that's when she started getting physical, and she started...
Tell me how she got physical.
Well, she started cussing. She was like...
She started cursing?
Yeah.
The girl She started cursing. What did she say?
Well, she was like, this effing over there talking about me and my cousin about our makeup. And my mom's like, what are you talking about? And she just kept cussing. My mom's like, well, do you talk to your mother with that kind of mouth? And the girl was like, no. She was like, well, if I was your mother, I would been talk to you about that mouth. And the girl was like, well, you're not my mother. And she called my mom a B. And that's when we walked up. My mom told us to stand back because there's no problem.
Go ahead.
So the girl, she was like, well, Yohishi, and that's when they walked towards us. And me and my cousin was standing next to my mom. The girl had walked towards us, and she was like, well, y'all was over there talking about me and my makeup, and we was like, no, we wasn't. And then the girl came up to my cousin, and the girl had pushed my cousin. She had given like...
Just a second. Who pushed whom?
The witness over there.
This young lady pushed somebody?
She pushed him. She gave him like a 2-finger little tap.
A 2-finger little tap.
Like when you go like this, she did
oh,
it twice.
Okay, and then what happened after she gave him a 2-finger little tap?
She was like, well, I guess you're going to hit a girl. And he was like, no, I'm not even tripping off of you. And she was like, whatever. And then that's when she had punched my cousin in the stomach. And then that's when she had rushed him. And the other girl, Erica, I guess, she had jumped in. That's when I had jumped in and tried to pull one of them off. And then that's when the girl got up and swung at me. And that's when we all started to fight.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. The man there says Lavinia Kennard, Brittany Williams, and Cornell Martin owe for an assault at a mall. Erica says Brittany and Cornell were making fun of her makeup.
Up here. Did you punch him?
No.
Did you 2-finger him?
No.
Did you put your hands on him at all?
I put my hand like this because I knew he was going to come at me, and I didn't even touch him.
Why was he going to come at you?
Because I remember he was in my face, and I was like, you're going to hit a girl, and he goes, I don't care what you are. And then he just pushed me, and I fell to the ground.
Did you say that, Cornell?
No.
Well, what did you say?
She gave me the 2-finger push, and I said, don't put your hands on me. And she said, oh, well, you a dude, you going to put your hands on the female? I was like, no, I'm not going to put my hand on the female. And then she pushed me back again, and then that's when she socked me in my stomach.
How did she do that?
She took her 2 fingers and pushed me back like this, and then she took her hand and then pushed me out of the way. And then at the time I was moving back, she socked me.
With her fist?
Yes.
Were you winded?
Yes.
Did you fall down?
No.
What happened next?
I stumbled. And then when I stumbled, the other girl rushed me into the clothes.
Where was Jennifer at the time that Erica rushed you into the clothes?
Fighting with Brittany.
Was Jennifer on the ground?
Yes.
How did Jennifer get on the ground?
Because they was fighting.
How did she get there is my question.
She got knocked to the ground.
By whom?
Brittany.
By Brittany?
Yes.
Where was your mother?
She wasn't paying attention at the time. She was paying attention, but she didn't notice the fight until after she tried to pull us off. But she couldn't break it up.
Stand up. When you came to get your daughter at the mall, did you take her for any treatment?
Yes. She was taken by ambulance to the local hospital.
Can I see the medical report? Any photographs taken of her face?
Yes, there is.
Can I see, please? Who punched you in the face?
It was Kennard and Brittany.
Why'd you punch her in the face? Why did you punch her in the face?
I didn't punch her in the face.
Who punched her in the face? Who punched her in the face?
I don't know. We was fighting, so somebody's gonna obviously. She got hit in the face as we was fighting.
Well, I'm asking you, who punched her in the face?
We don't know because we was all fighting at once, and it was a big old bunch.
Well, where are your photographs of your injuries?
I didn't have any.
We don't have none. We don't have injuries.
You want to say anything?
Yes, Your Honor.
First, I have a couple of questions for you. You take 3 children. These 3 children you took to the mall?
Yes.
Why aren't you properly supervising them?
Your Honor, they was properly supervised.
No, they weren't. They were properly supervised. They wouldn't have been involved in assault.
The way the little girl's saying it is not the way she was performing. The performance of these 2 young girls, I had these 2 sitting on the bench. I had my 11-year-old standing in line while I looked at a purse.
They were on their way out the store.
They was not, Your Honor. They lying.
Really? Where were they when this took place?
When they was at the cash register paying for their stuff. As I'm walking up to it, they turns around. This is the cash register. They turns around, both of them, and mad dogs me as the mother.
What's mad dog? What does that mean?
That means like they looking at you, they staring you up and down, just, you know, like,
Yes.
you know, they finna beat you up. That's how the looks both of them gave me. So when I walk up, I look over my shoulder, I look around me. I'm like, what? You tell them MFs to he, she's quit talking about me. She's in my face. I'm at the register. I'm walking up now to this.
Right. Okay.
So I'm like, they talk about Jesus Christ. I mean, so what did they say about you? She couldn't tell me what they said about them. She was abusing me like I was in it. She cussing at me. She talking crap to me and disrespecting me. And I asked her, do your mother allow you to talk like that to an adult? She said, I could say what I want to say. I say, if I was your mother, I would whoop you because you're disrespectful right now. She said, I ain't disrespectful. Excuse my language. And she called me a B. And so that's when them two came up. And they said, don't talk about my mother and my auntie. So I pushed them back. And next thing I know, the young girl over there, she's flinching at him. She's standing at his face like, what? You know, she flinching. And then she took him and pushed her shoulders. And then she took her fist and she hit him. He fell back into the clothes. By the time I'm over here to get these two breaking up, the other two start fighting. So when I get through breaking these, get ready to break these, he come around to get her off of the other one. They never stopped. They just kept going at it with him. So when I finally got them both apart, she had a purse laying there with money. I picked her purse and her money up and gave it to the lady at the register. She said she's going to call the police. I said, we're going to stand here till you call the police until they come.
Let me see the police report, please.
And, Your Honor, I couldn't even get one. They told me I wasn't allowed to get a police report if there was minors.
I was, Your Honor, okay.
Well, Ms. Kennard, there is a witness in the store who told the police that there was a fight. And this witness, not you, not any one of these people, but this witness who was just in the store, the witness said she heard you tell your daughter and your nephew to fight them.
Your Honor, I didn't do that.
Okay.
That's the honest God truth.
Okay. Would be a fair statement that at the end of the police investigation, after speaking to witnesses and you, that the two of you were cited for fighting in a public place. Is that correct?
Yes. No, they had cited all four of them, Your Honor.
You two girls cited? Mm-hmm. But what happened with those cases?
We went to a aware witness.
Anger management is what?
See, they didn't get anger management. They got a aware witness where they had to go for 2 hours, and I sit there with them and pay $10 and letting them know they can't fight in public and letting them know how it is.
And what did you have to do?
An anger management class.
Same thing?
I didn't. She did.
She didn't get anything.
Why do you think that is?
Why what?
Well, she had to go to an anger management program.
She didn't go to it.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh.
Fighting in public, anger management,
Okay.
whatever it is.
All
And
right.
he did. And Jennifer did. But not her.
My thing was, to me, Your Honor, the girls started it first, so they hit first. They could have paid for their
No, she didn't hit anybody first.
Yeah, they both hit.
No. That's not true. She didn't hit anybody first. Jennifer may have put her hands on Cornell. She didn't hit anybody first.
She hit her. Her and Brittany fought.
I don't believe she hit somebody first. You didn't handle, listen, their mother wasn't there.
She came in like them fighting, cussing me out, calling me B. She ran up in there talking about who did it, who effing did this stuff. I'm gonna kick their butt. Her husband, her sister, her brothers, they all was threatening us.
You're not following me.
Well, you said it didn't hit you, on, and I was there.
said the mother wasn't there when this incident happened. You were the responsible adult.
Yes,
it
I
was
was.
your job to ensure that if one of these girls looked at you and they looked at you, as you said, with attitude, then you just say, forget about it. Nothing. Well, you told me the story now. I listened to your
wasn't
story.
so much of them looking at me attitude, Your Honor. They was being disrespectful. They was standing there mugging me.
You're not getting it. You're the grown-up. If they're not acting appropriately, and I believe that they weren't.
It wasn't them even saying anything. The little young one said to her sister and her cousin, she said, they eyebrow. We found out at the end. The police, everybody found out at the end that the 11-year-old, the one who said, look at her eyebrows, Brittany.
Just a second. So let me ask you this question. Now you're getting down to it.
Yeah, because she's the
Stop
last
speaking!
one.
So it wasn't your older daughter, it was your younger daughter.
Yes. The younger daughter made a comment, Your Honor, about, but they didn't even hear the comment.
Oh, listen. They should have sent you to some sort of parenting class. You're the one responsible to take care of the children who are in your care, madam.
Well, I thought I was doing that.
Well, you weren't. Because when you said nothing happened, they weren't talking about her makeup. They weren't saying anything. That's what I'm speaking. So it wasn't them. It was Miss Smarty Pants. But they had a legitimate complaint because she was being mocked by somebody in your charge. So instead of not confronting it, instead of not removing actions that could possibly result in an assault, you decided to confront them. And I'm telling you, you didn't do...
Your Honor, do you know when we learned about this little girl said something? After these kids then fought and everything was over with, then she spoke up and said, Mama, I'm the one who said something about her eyebrow. Your Honor, everything was done. They already had the fight. And this one told it...
She's not getting it.
I guess I'm not then, Your Honor.
You're not getting it.
Because I'm a very good mother.
You're not getting it. When you started to tell me your story, you and your daughter and your nephew, you all conveniently left out the fact that these young ladies, you can sit down, Jennifer, that this young lady told me the truth when she said that somebody was making fun of her makeup and laughing. And just because it was this daughter instead of this daughter, that doesn't make it any less true. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not supposed to do the smart thing. If you're dealing with a situation where it's getting clearly out of control, you just pay for your stuff and move out of the store. You understand? Mm-hmm. They behaved inappropriately. The mother behaved inappropriately. Smarty Pants behaved inappropriately. They behaved inappropriately. So did you. You just should have left. But you were injured. Mm. She was responsible to take care of her children. All of her children, not just the older one, the younger one too. And you didn't do that. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all. Step out.
Why does that excuse you? You may step out.
It's not the fact that it was about my makeup, it's just the fact that I don't want, you're not supposed to do that.
I say nothing about it.
The way she disrespected and talked to me, I told her if I was your mother, I would whoop you.
I don't allow my children to be disrespectful.
I'm not going to just go up and hit a guy.
She man enough to hit me, so she man enough to hit back.
People talk about everybody all day long. You can't go around approaching everybody who's saying something about you.
This was a boy hitting my daughter, number one, and number two, it was violence and it was hitting. You don't do that.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gallagher versus Soldate, step forward, please.
15-year-old David Gallagher and his mother, Julie, are suing David's classmate, Robert Soldate, and his mother, Claudia, for medical bills after David was injured with a box cutter.
What's your first name?
David.
Miss Gallagher, David is your son, and it is your claim that this young man, whose first name is? Robert, cut him with a box cutter.
Correct.
And Mrs. Soldate, his mother, says, A, David took the box cutter out of your home without permission, and second, you were supposed to be supervising them at the time of this incident. All right. So, David, why don't you tell me when this happened and how it happened?
We had been working on a project for school for our science class.
Who had?
Me and Robert Soldate.
Okay.
And it was a project that involved collecting bottles and taping them together to make a boat to go across a pool. So we had been using a box cutter to cut these up to fit for a boat.
And where were you doing that?
At Robert Soldate's house.
Okay, go ahead.
So we decided to go to my grandparents' house to try and float the boat in her jacuzzi in the backyard.
Okay.
So we went there, and Robert brought the box cutter with him in case we needed to fix anything.
So Robert took the box cutter out of his house?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
So we were working on it. My grandmother said, would you like to go to a luau at the church, because the church youth group was putting it on to raise money for the church. So we drove there. She dropped us off and walked inside.
Okay.
And we got there, and the supervisor there, she told us to go outside and rehearse a skit for later on in the dinner. So we went outside and we started play fighting, but not actually hitting each other. and he pulled out the box cutter and swung, and I raised my arm in defense.
And that's when your arm got cut.
That is correct.
Okay, Robert, I'm listening to you.
Well, like you said, we were working on a project. It was like the last project of the year.
Robert, who took the box cutter from your house?
David took it.
Go ahead.
We were at his grandmother's house, and we were like sitting in the jacuzzi, and then I don't know who called, but he was having a luau at his church. So then we went, and then we did have to perform a skit. So we were on the side of the church rehearsing the skit, and he pulls out the box cutter. I'm like, give that to me. So then I take it away from him, and I guess it was open, and I don't know if he was mad or whatever, but he comes at me, and I flinch, and then the box cutter ended up cutting him on the side of his wrist. And I'm not the type of person to fight.
There's no question that nobody did anything on purpose. Okay. David, there's no question that this wasn't intentional, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So tell me, Miss Gallagher, what do you want?
Well, our out-of-pocket medical expenses were $115.
Okay, that's reasonable.
And I had asked Ms. Saldate if she would pay these, since our health insurance covered the other $2,000.
Fine. So what you were asking for was $115.
Right.
Well, then explain to me why now you're suing for $5,000.
Well, this whole thing has been very frustrating.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with his arm. He has a little scar on his hand, right? Had a little scar on your hand, and it was clearly something that you shouldn't have been doing, you know, walking around with that box cutter. Either one of you, right?
Right.
Now, what's this ridiculous counterclaim that you have?
I did the counterclaim because he was not supposed to take the box cutter from the house from the beginning. David admitted to me from the beginning that he had taken the box cutter from my house.
So?
He said accidentally, you know, I don't...
So?
You know,
So what's your $5,000 countersuit for?
You know, for emotional distress.
Yeah, my emotional distress. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $115. That'll cover your medicals. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I got scared, and my sister ran inside and called my mom.
I got pretty scared too.
Picked me up and took me to the emergency room.
So I just called my mom so she can come pick me up.
Gave me 14 stitches.
Yeah, it was just an accident.
I would really like us to be friends again.
I mean, if I had done it on purpose, we wouldn't still be friends, right?
2-year-old payroll scheduler April Thomas is suing her cousin's ex-girlfriend, 19-year-old health aid worker Tiffany Johnson, for vandalism to her 2000 Dodge Neon. Tiffany is countersuing, claiming April vandalized her Kia Optima.
Come to order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, all rise. Aye. Count, this is case number 255 on the calendar in the matter of Thomas versus Johnson. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Anybody who's been to court before, raise your hand. Were you a litigant?
No, traffic court.
And you?
Criminal court.
Criminal court. I assume you weren't a prosecutor,
No.
right?
No.
Good. So we all know what court's about. Court's about telling the
Truth.
So that's what we're going to do today, right, ladies?
Yes.
I have cross complaints. Each of you claimed that the other damaged their car purposely by breaking windows. And each of you say, I didn't do her window, and I didn't do her window.
I didn't do her window.
I didn't do her window.
She has a child with him.
No.
With who?
With my cousin. He's not here.
Where is he?
He's in jail.
Ah! He's in jail. A testament to your good judgment.
Yes.
And according to your complaint, there was some sort of altercation involving the two of them, your cousin and his then ex-girlfriend and the mother of his child. And since then, there's been some bad blood between the two of you. So I want you to tell me when you claim she damaged your car, where the car was, and who witnessed it.
Okay. My car was at my house in my driveway. It was about 5:30 a.m. I don't have the specific date. I know it was in July. I wasn't there. I have a witness that says that shows everywhere where I was at. That says
which one is the witness?
She's the witness to who I was with, and he's the witness that seen her damage my car.
Well, I don't care who you were with. I'm not your social secretary. I just want to know who saw her damage your car.
Okay, he saw her damage my car.
ma'am.
Rick.
Okay, step up. Tell me your name.
My name is Rick Howard.
How do you know her, Rick?
I used to work with her a couple years ago.
And what were you doing up at 5:30 in the morning on this date in July that we don't remember?
Smoking a cigarette.
Where?
On her balcony.
What were you doing in her house?
She went out of town, so I was staying there house sit because she had problems with. She has problems with her neighbors, so I was staying there.
So you got up very early. You went out on the balcony to smoke a cigarette.
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you see?
I heard an alarm go off, so I went downstairs because I thought it was my car, because my car's been stolen before. When I ran downstairs and I turned the corner, I seen Tiffany standing behind the car, like with a blunt object in her hand.
With a what?
Blunt object.
And did you know Tiffany before?
I don't know her, but I know of her.
No. When you say you know of her, had you seen her before?
Yes.
No. Where had you seen her before?
At a high school.
How many years ago?
About 4 years ago.
And you hadn't seen her in 4 years?
No.
Get to you in a minute.
Okay.
What did you say to her?
I was like, "A." I just yelled out "A."
And when you yelled out A, what did she do?
She left.
How did she leave?
She got in her car.
What kind of car?
A white car.
So what did you do?
I went back upstairs.
Well, didn't you go and look to see what happened to her car?
Nah, I figured that the window was broken because I heard the window break. So I went back upstairs.
What do you mean you figured that the window was broken? You mean you didn't go over to look at the car?
No.
You figured it wasn't your car, you didn't have any...
No, it wasn't that it wasn't my car. It was just that I heard the window break. So she had an object in her hand, so I figured that the window was broken. So I went back upstairs to get my phone, and then I came back downstairs.
When you got your phone, who did you call?
I called April.
Where was she?
Somewhere in the Bay Area.
And you told her what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Did you call the police?
Another lady who was standing across the street, I called the police.
Did the police arrive that day?
Yes, they did.
Did you speak to the police?
Yes, I did.
Did you give them a description of the person that you saw?
Yes.
Did you tell them who it was?
Yes.
You told them by name?
Yes.
Did you get the name from Miss Thomas, or did you get the name from knowing her yourself from high school?
Thomas told me her name from a picture, because she has a picture of her in her house.
So when you told her somebody just came and busted the window out of your car, and they had a white car, and she said to you it must have been Miss Johnson, is that right?
She didn't say it must have been Miss Johnson. Like, she looked familiar from the pictures that she has in her house, and that's how I recognized her, other than I knew her from high school.
What are you doing with the picture of her in your house?
I have a picture of her and her son at my house. We have like a lot of family gatherings, and she comes because her son is included in our family. And when we were tight, we used to take pictures, and I'd keep them in my house. And even though that they're not together, that's still his mother, so I would have the pictures.
Okay. Now, Miss Johnson, let's get to you.
Okay.
Nope, I didn't ask you a question yet. Don't start. You may be seated. Now, it is your claim that Miss Thomas busted a window in your car.
Yes.
When do you claim she did that?
And this was in June. I never seen him a day in my life.
I didn't ask you anything about that. I asked you about your car.
Okay, this is the real story. We was at a club. We went to a club.
Listen to me.
In June.
I'm in charge here.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. April Thomas says her cousin's ex-girlfriend, Tiffany Johnson, vandalized her Dodge Neon by breaking her window. Tiffany says April did the same thing to her car.
In what month do you claim she damaged your car?
June 25th.
What time on the 25th
like
of June?
12:30 to 1 o'clock.
In the morning?
No, at nighttime. Yeah, morning, yeah, it is morning.
Where was your car?
At a club.
So tell me what happened.
I was parking. My cousin pulled in first. I was parking my car. And as I was parking my car, Miss Thomas jumped in front of my car and told me I cannot park here. She is saving this park for my friend, and she's on the freeway to get there.
So you're moving into a spot. She blocks the spot, and she says, I'm saving it.
Yes.
And you said?
You can't save a park. You can't stand and save a park. It's free parking. My car was, I was so close to hitting her for her just standing in front of my car. So I just parked my car and got out. And she started...
Just a second. So she's standing in the parking space, and you said, well, you're going to get run over, but I'm parking here.
Yeah.
So you parked there in the spot.
Yes.
Okay, and she ultimately moved out of the way.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
It was my friend's birthday. That's how I remember the date, because we were all going out. And as I got out my car, She's talking about, you don't want it like this, or you already know about these hands. You don't want to see nobody in my family. We just started talking a lot. Just started talking to me. I don't want this, and I just walked away. So we walked down the street by the clubs. Then we walked to Old Sacramento, and I just had a funny.
Holy. You went to the club. What happened when you got to the club?
We didn't go in because it was about to close anyways.
And from there you went back to your car?
I went to Old Sacramento, walked to Old Sac.
I don't know where that is, nor do I really care. When did you go back to your car?
In like 20 minutes.
20 minutes after you parked your car and had this altercation with the plaintiff, you went back to your car. And what did you find when you went back to your car?
1,000 pieces of glass broke all over my driver's window. And it was so many people out there telling me, the girl that you just
Don't tell me what anybody else said. Driver's window?
Yes.
What window of your car was broken?
My back windshield.
Okay, so you found your window broken?
Yes.
Now, other than the fact that you had had this altercation with her about the parking space,
yes,
did anyone else who was here today witness her damaging the car?
Crystal.
Crystal. I'm going to take your testimony, Crystal. Step up. Crystal, how do you know Miss Johnson?
I don't know her.
Where do you work?
I stay at home with my son.
And what were you doing at 1 o'clock in the morning on June 25th?
I was going to the club too.
Who were you going with?
Some friends.
Tell me what you saw.
Okay, Tiffany had pulled up. April jumped in front of her, told her she couldn't park, and then Tiffany parked anyways. Got out of the car and started walking off. April started yelling at her. Tiffany walked off. One of April's friends had pulled up a couple minutes later, and they had got in the car, drove off, came back like a few minutes later. April had got out of the passenger side, threw something at Tiffany's car, and jumped in the car and took off.
And how come you stayed around the parking area that long?
Because I was sitting in the car across the street talking to some friends.
How did it come about that you met Miss Johnson and told her what happened to her car?
Well, we were still there when she come walking back.
So you told her what you saw?
Yeah.
Did you call the police, Miss Johnson?
No.
How come?
It was late at night. I just knew it was her. That's why I didn't even call the police, because I didn't even think it would go this far with me and her. I know April for a long time.
Well, did you call her the next day?
No, I asked her cousin, my son's dad, told me that she was going around the family acting like she done something very well. And he was mad because all the glass that was in my car, my son cut his hand.
So you mean you didn't call the police?
No.
And you didn't speak to her afterwards and say, you better fix my car?
No.
I don't understand that. You mean you just got even?
No, but she's trying to say...
No. I asked you a question.
No.
I think you did.
Okay, I did.
That's my girl. That's it.
Yeah.
You didn't get mad.
No.
You got even.
Yeah.
Love it.
Like when it works.
Like it when it works. Right?
Yep.
Very good. So how much did it cost you to fix your window?
Can I add that also she must have stuck something in my door lock because it doesn't turn anymore.
How much did it cost? Listen.
I'm listening.
How much did it cost to fix your window?
It was $344 for the window, and it came to $253 for the tint.
For the what?
The tint on the window is tinted black.
Why?
Because all my windows are tinted black to keep the sun out.
$344, is that right? It cost you to fix the window?
Yes.
How much did it cost you to fix your window?
$300, and I have to get a rental car because I have to wait till my window to come in.
It cost you just about the same amount of money.
Yes.
Right? Did you both feel good afterwards?
No.
Mama? Did you feel good?
I didn't do anything.
Oh,
sure you did.
Yes, you did.
Of course you
She's
did.
the devil in disguise.
Of course you did. Now, my only problem with both of you is, I mean, you're acting like children.
Yeah.
Which is, shh. You're acting like children. And the only problem that I have with both of you is, why do you visit your childish behavior on the court system? Why do we have to become involved in your childish behavior? You both did something wrong. It ended up costing you both money, right?
Yeah.
Goodbye. Case is
Sorry,
dismissed.
excuse me. You may step out.
I didn't think it would come this far with her breaking my window. I admitted that I went back and broke her.
She thinks that I broke into her car when I didn't, so it's just plain out ignorance.
I guess she want to be like me, but she can't.
You can see that she's ignorant. She doesn't know the day from night, from 12 a.m. to 12 noon.
I'm cuter than her.
She is just really anal and acts like a true baby mama.
We would call it ghetto. Her attitude is ugly, just like her face. She's a sloppy CH.
And now the next case.
Yes, this is case number 244 on the calendar in the matter of Perriman versus Brewington. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Ms. Perryman, your complaint is rather lengthy, as is your former husband's answer. So let me see if I can simplify what I perceive to be the issue in this case. You and the defendant were married and have 2 children?
3.
3 children. And you live where?
In Colorado.
And Mr. Brewington moved to Alaska.
Yes, ma'am.
And you had an agreement with him that you would split the cost of visitation with the children to Alaska. And Mr. Brewington, did you come down and pick up the children?
Yes, I did.
And it was your arrangement with your former wife that she would pay for the other half of the ticket before you did that?
Yes.
But then at some point, according to you, you changed your mind.
Yes.
Because she said to you, I don't have the money to pay for the ticket. If you want to see the children, you have to pay for the ticket. I have no money for that.
Yes.
Right?
I paid for the whole ticket.
So you said to her, fine, I want to see the kids. I want the children to visit with me in Alaska, so I will pay for the ticket both ways. But at some point during the course of the visitation, you changed your mind. And you called her and said, if you want the kids back, you better get a ticket.
First, he said, if I want the kids back, I have to come and get them myself.
And you said to him?
I told him he was going to bring my kids back, or I was calling the police.
And he said?
Call them.
Does that sound right?
No.
Close.
Close, but not right.
Close. Because she had changed the rules by saying, I can't afford to send the kids and pay for half the ticket. You said, okay, I'll take care of it. And at some point, then you changed your mind and wanted her to pay what she had agreed to pay in the beginning, right?
I didn't ask her to pay for half the tickets. I just asked her to either come up and get the children or to get me a ticket back the day I flew to Denver with them.
Well, listen, let's not split hairs, sir. If she wanted the children back and she has custody of the children, then you told her to either come get them yourself, which means that she'd have to pay for her ticket back and forth, right? Yes. Or pay for my ticket, right?
Yes.
Because the kids are too small to travel by themselves.
Yes.
So far correct? And Miss Perryman says that the reason she didn't have any money is because you don't pay child support.
That's incorrect.
How much does he pay in child support?
Supposed to pay $488 a month. It's hit and miss each month.
Just a second. $488 per month, 3 children. Okay. What kind of work do you do in Alaska, sir?
I don't work. I'm a full-time student.
Well, if you're a full-time student, how do you pay this $488 a month?
I don't. I'm working with the state of Alaska now. As previous, I was working with Colorado to get it lowered.
Well, how old are you, Mr. Brewington?
I'm 28.
What makes you think you can be a full-time student after you fathered 3 children?
I'm a disabled vet going to school through Chapter 31 Voc Rehab.
I don't care if you're a Purple Heart winner. What makes you think that somebody who looks like you, who's built like you, who eats like you do, can stop working and go to school full-time when you've got 3 children to support? What gives you the right to do that?
I did it. That's what I need to do to get a better career so I can support my children better.
Well, that's all very, very nice. You expect them to go into a state of suspended animation while you get your act together?
No, but I didn't expect Mrs. Perryman over there to quit her job and to be in school as well.
Somebody is feeding your children. Who is it?
The state.
How old are your children?
3, 6, and 8.
What was so interesting about Alaska that caused you to move from Colorado to Alaska?
I was born and raised in Alaska.
And where did you live when you were married to Miss Perryman?
We lived all over. Oklahoma, Alaska, California, and then Colorado.
And how long did you live in Colorado?
About 3.5 years.
So Colorado was the home state of your family?
I guess.
Didn't it strike you, Mr. Brewington, that if you moved to Alaska, even though it's a place that you grew up, it would be difficult for you to have regular contact and visitation with your children?
Yes, I understood that.
And you were willing to make that sacrifice?
Yes, I was.
And you were willing to make that sacrifice on behalf of your children as well?
I call my children almost every day.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
How much was the plane ticket?
$159. Plus, we had to drive 4 hours away to go pick up the kids in Denver, which was gas, and we spent one night in the hotel the night before because the plane arrived a little bit before 7 in the morning.
You've got a lot of little expenses here, including, according to you, mental anguish. I can't give you mental anguish. Listen, he didn't turn into this overnight.
No, he didn't, but
okay? And you were not smart enough not to have the second child with him and the third child with him. Should have, figured it out right away. Any man that has 3 children that can move thousands of miles away from their 3 young children because he wants to pursue a career in education is not somebody that I would father 3 children with.
He was a responsible father up until November of 2001, and
And then what happened?
He told me that he didn't feel the same way, and everything went downhill from there.
I don't care if he doesn't feel the same way about you. He's got 3 children.
Well, it turned his look on everything, I guess.
Well, when was the last time you received $488 from him?
The full amount of $488 would be July of 2003. He paid a little bit over to catch up because for the previous 3 months there was no payment at all.
When was the last time you received any money from him?
June of this year. It was $50.
Okay. Where do your parents live?
In Alaska.
You live with them?
Yes, I live with my mother.
Mr. Brewington, I don't think you're doing the right thing, sir. I think you ought to do a lot of soul searching.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, Perryman says ex-husband Jason Brewington owes for the cost of a plane ticket. Jason says Christy owes him for the cost to visit his children.
Now, do you have a legal agreement that provides that you pay for half of the cost of the children to go to visit him?
In September of 2002, I agreed to do that on document and with the court. In August, the beginning of August, I have it stated that the magistrate ruled that I am released from all financial obligation of visitation.
Right.
And I have that paperwork.
Right. He wants to see his children? Let him get a job and make enough money to get a ticket to come and pick them up. And if he wants to take them to Alaska to see his parents, which would be a nice thing, fine. Other than that, I think that you're absolutely nuts to do a judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $159. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think it was fair.
I think I was robbed.
She knows that I'm not responsible to pay for the plane tickets.
She was required to pay for half the plane ticket. She never did.
Now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gillitzer versus Morris. Step forward, please.
25-year-old administrative assistant Frank Gillitzer is suing his ex-fiancée, ballroom dance instructor Mally Morris, for the return of the engagement ring. Mally claims Frank told her she could keep it.
Mr. Gillitzer, how long were you and Miss Morris engaged?
Exactly 1 year to the date.
And when did you become engaged?
October 18th, 2002.
And when did the engagement terminate?
October 18th, 2003.
And you are seeking in this lawsuit the return of the engagement ring?
Correct.
When did you ask for the ring back?
I believe the correct date on that is the end of January. Once we terminated the relationship October 18th, and then at the end of January, that's when I asked for the ring back, because we started talking again and trying to reestablish the relationship at the end of November. And I moved back to Milwaukee on January 4th of 2004, and at the end of the month, I found out that it just is not going to work. At that point, I started asking for the ring back.
Okay. What did Miss Morris say to you the first time you asked for the ring back?
The first time, she said no, she's not giving it back. And
Did she give you a reason?
Honestly, at that time, no. I have emails stating that she's just not returning anything of the ring or...
Well, let me see if you have an email with regard to the ring.
Here are 3 emails stating that she's not giving the ring back.
Why wouldn't you want to give him the ring back?
Well, Your Honor, I had already returned the ring, and then...
When did you return the ring?
I returned the ring on the day, October 18th, that I removed my items from his home. Following that, we did start talking again. We became friendly. He asked me to please keep the ring. He didn't want the ring. He didn't want the emotional attachment. I said, all right.
So what you're telling me is he told you to keep the ring?
Yes. And I have a statement from him to that effect.
I only have one email on January 31st where you say I'm not sending it back.
Correct. I didn't have the ring. At the time that he emailed me, he had become more and more erratic as we had progressed in our relationship, and we'd been in counseling, and he had been on some drugs to help him deal with it. When I received his first email, I didn't know what to think of it, because I thought that he was in possession of the ring at the time.
When was that?
I think he came into the possession of the ring in December. We went to a meeting together at KU. In the car, I had the ring, and I also had a dance videotape.
Where was the ring?
It was in the cup holder of my car.
Why?
I had just taken it off. I have kids, and I take it on and off, and I had left it in the car. But after that night, I could not find either the video or the ring. And
you had gone together
yes,
to the
and
meeting?
we had gone together.
In the same car?
Yes.
You remember going to that meeting?
I remember going to the meeting, and I remember the tape. I purchased that tape because we were both dance instructors at the time, and to use it for choreography, I told her that I purchased the tape, I would like to take it and make a copy of it, and I'll give you the copy of the tape.
So you took the tape?
Correct.
With her permission?
Yes.
Is that right?
No, ma'am. He told me that at a later date. When I found that he had the tape, he said, don't worry, I'll give you a copy of it.
Is that the way it came about?
No, it's not. We discussed it earlier, prior to that, back at the end of November.
Well, from November to the time you took the tape in December, did you discuss it with her?
Yes, we have.
That night, did you discuss it with her?
No. Honestly, it was on the dashboard of the car, and since we already talked about it, I figured I'll just take it.
Okay, and you drove there together?
Correct.
And you drove home together?
Correct.
Did you make plans to see each other after that night in December?
Yes.
When?
The next day, I assume.
Did you see each other the next day?
I do not believe that we made plans to see each other. I don't think that I saw him after that event, before he left for Wisconsin. I did speak with him on the phone.
Do you remember when?
I don't. We spoke off and on throughout December and January.
Do you remember when the first time that you raised the issue of the tape?
It was early in January. KU has a activities fair.
Okay, so that was in early January. You asked him about the tape?
Yes.
And what did he say?
He said, well, yes, I have the tape, but don't worry, I'll get you a copy.
Fine. When did you ask him about the ring?
I'd never asked him about the ring.
Well, it would seem to me that you'd want to know whether or not the ring that you left in the cup holder was also taken at the same time as the tape, since you were talking in January.
Well, Mr. Gillitzer was very confrontational throughout our relationship, and we had a really hard time at the end.
But you were still talking to each other, according to you.
I was trying to remain friendly.
All right. All right, let me see the bill for the engagement ring, please. Okay. Not a very difficult case. Miss Morris, it's been my experience that if something doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. I'm a tad older than you are. I have never taken off one of my rings and left it in the cup holder in a car. Never. That doesn't mean that it's impossible that you took off the ring and left it in the cup holder of a car. That just means it's not within my realm of experience, and I'm a pretty normal gal. It also doesn't make sense that you would ask him within days about the tape, but not ask him whether or not, in addition to taking the tape, he happened to take the engagement ring that was in the cup holder of the car. That doesn't make sense to me. And you have an obligation, once the engagement is over, to return the ring to him. You don't have it to return to him. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,853. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I never intended to deny Mr. Gillitzer the ring.
Honestly, I think she hocked the ring.
If I had had the ring to return to him, I certainly would have.
I realize how vindictive she is and what a chronic liar she is.
We went through counseling to try to keep it together.
Yeah, I was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder with depression, but anybody in my situation would be.
I expect that we probably won't ever see each other again.
I think I was a meal ticket for over a year.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Slovic versus Jimenez. Step forward, please.
21-year-old office manager Jamie Slovic is suing her ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old construction worker Roman Jimenez, for unpaid rent, damaged property, and the return of household items belonging to her.
Miss Slovic, you and the defendant lived together. Take your hands out of your pockets. You and the defendant lived together for a period of time.
Yes.
There was an altercation between the two of you, and you claimed that Mr. Jimenez moved out. And when he moved out, he took with him a whole bunch of furniture that you had purchased on your credit card that you either paid for or are still paying for. In addition, you claim he owes you for half a month's rent and some eviction costs because you were ultimately evicted from the apartment. Mr. Jimenez says that you really locked him out of the apartment because you called the police, so stop complaining that he owes you any rent because he couldn't live there. He doesn't, however, address the issue of the furniture, which I will get to. So when did you and Mr. Jimenez live together, Ms.
We lived together for 3 months.
Starting when?
Starting from June of 2003 to October of 2003. And the reason why he had to move out is because it was court-ordered, or police report ordered, that he moved out of the apartment.
Okay, just a second.
Okay.
That order was issued as a result of a complaint, correct?
Yeah.
And the complainant in that complaint was who?
Me.
Right. Well, that's pretty much what he's saying. He's saying he had to leave the apartment because you complained, which resulted in a court order putting him out of the apartment. So he's right. Right?
Okay.
Oh. Now let's get to the furniture.
Okay. When we lived together, had nothing, and we purchased big pictures for the walls, a couch and a coffee table that we got before we moved in there, a dining room table, and a bed that we purchased while we were living there. All this stuff that, you know, we were supposed to be living together to pay off together. He had no credit, so we did everything on my credit. He couldn't get approved anywhere.
So far, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. When you moved out, did you take the furniture with you?
I took my furniture with me.
What did you take?
I took my pictures.
Pictures. Were those pictures that were purchased on her credit card?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, then how could you take the pictures if she paid for them?
Well, because I gave her some money too, and you know, she spent the money on that stuff, and I spent my money like on food and going out and stuff like that.
Going out.
We ate a lot. We ate good food.
Going out without me.
Don't talk to him.
Okay.
What else did you take with you, sir?
Pictures, pots, pans, some sofas. Oh.
Some what?
Oh, I took a futon, like a sort of recliner futon.
Pictures, pots, and pans.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I have pictures and pots and pans. What other furniture did you take with you, sir?
I didn't take the furniture because the furniture was broken.
So you took nothing else but pictures and pots and pans. Is that what you're telling me?
That's correct.
What happened to the futon you told me about a couple of seconds ago?
Oh, it was kind of broken.
Did you take it?
Pieces of it.
Do you suffer from a mental disability?
No,
unfortunately, Mr. Jimenez, I'm not kidding.
No, I don't suffer from a mental disability.
Then when I ask you a question, I want you to think about the answer, and I want you to give me an answer that's truthful. Pictures, pots and pans, and a futon sofa. Is that right?
The mattress. I took the mattress.
Took the mattress. And was that something that was purchased after you moved into the apartment?
Yes, it was.
So the pictures, the pots and pans, the futon, and the mattress were things that were purchased with the plaintiff's credit card that she paid for or is paying for, and you took?
Correct. It was my...
Perfect! How much were those things?
Everything that he left me with is way beyond $5,000.
Listen, it's not what I asked you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
He says he took pictures. Do you have the bill for the pictures?
This top one right here is one of the pictures.
And how much was that?
$47.99.
What else? Give me the figure.
Okay, figures $16.99, $15.99, $14.99, and $69.99.
How much was the futon?
I don't have the receipt just for the futon.
Oh, fine. So then forget that. Now, mattress. How much was it? He took it with him.
$580, I think, for just the mattress.
Go. Mattress, futon, pots and pans.
$256.
$256.
$22.
$940.
Okay.
Now, listen to me, Mr. Jimenez. You cannot take property that was being paid for by the plaintiff because you wanted it.
She said all I had to do was cook for her because I like to cook. She said all I had to do was cook for her, and that was cool.
What?
I like to cook.
Just a second. Would you run that past me again in English and slowly, please?
Okay, she said that all I had to do was cook some good food, and it was cool. Just don't worry about it, baby, and that was it.
You have children?
Yeah, I have one son.
How old is he? How old is he?
He's 5 years old.
You have children?
No.
Very good. Miss Slovak.
Drama.
You know, sometimes you make a mistake, and what you have to do is you have to put a period and move on. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. You're a young girl. He's worthless. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Okay. He used you.
Yep.
You took care of his son?
Yes, I did.
Once in a while. She went to the park with him once in a while.
You have to look up and say, thank you, Lord, because I was shown the light early enough before I had a child with him, or maybe two, before he totally ruined my credit, before he wasted the best years of my life. So you really should say thank you. And next time, store the information in your head and exercise better judgment. Right?
Right. Yes.
Okay. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $940. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was pretty violent. It was pretty nasty, I guess.
Oh man, we were wasted.
Well, everything was destroyed in the apartment.
She's jealousy, raving in front of, making a scene in front of people. I'm trying to push her away, trying to get away from the conflict.
You can imagine. It was pretty crazy, yeah.
She's mad over me, that's fine.
He got away with it again right now. He just gets away with it.
She thinks I get away with anything, but I don't get away with nothing. You know what I mean? I had to put up with everything.
It's you know, whatever. I'm struggling to pay my bills. I don't make very much money, and it's hard.
Man, I'm used to her being emotional like that.
Be careful next time.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Allen versus Caldwell. Step forward, please.
Nurse Karen Allen is suing her former pet sitter, 21-year-old ER clerk Tiffany Caldwell, for rent and for the cost of a Welsh Corgi. Karen says while she was away, her dog was euthanized.
Miss Allen, according to your complaint, you hired Miss Caldwell to house and dog sit for you. You were going to be gone for several months, and you had to leave your dog at home. The arrangement was that she would stay in your house for how many months?
It was going to be from March of 2004 until August of 2004.
Unfortunately, when you came home in August, you found that your dog had been euthanized.
Yes, ma'am.
And your house trashed.
Yes, ma'am.
And you want Miss Caldwell to now pay you for rent and for your dog.
Yes,
I don't know how you set a price on that. What kind of dog did you have?
I had an AKC registered Pembroke Welsh Corgi.
How long had you had the dog?
Approximately about a year and a half.
Boy or a girl?
A male.
Where is your home?
In Knoxville, Tennessee.
And where were you going for 5 months?
I was going to work as a travel nurse in Newark, New Jersey.
Is this your son?
Yes, ma'am.
He was going with you?
No, he stayed with his father during the 5 months.
And where does his father live?
In Morristown, Tennessee, about 40 miles away from Knoxville.
How did you find Miss Caldwell?
A common friend of ours that we both share suggested her, said that she was looking for something, and she worked for the same hospital system I worked at in Knoxville, and it's a very choosy hospital system, so I felt that, you know, they've checked her out, so they've checked me out, so we should probably be a pretty good fit. We met and talked, and she agreed to watch my dog and live in the house while I was gone.
Is that correct so far, Miss Caldwell?
Yes, ma'am.
So she moved into the house?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you check on the house and the defendant during the 5 months that she was there?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I was home 2 or 3 times to take Matthew to hockey events. I would fly in for the weekend, stop by the house, check on the dog. Everything seemed fine. And I would call her frequently. So it was phone tag sometimes, but I would always get a message back, everything was fine. In July, I did call to check on my dog, and she told me that mosquitoes were bad in the area and that he had a few mosquito bites, but he was fine.
You remember that conversation in July?
Actually, it was flies, and she said that it had happened yearly, that his ears would get irritated from where the flies would bother him when he would stay outside.
Why was he staying outside?
The agreement between her and I was, since I worked at the time 10-hour shifts, and she had worked 12 when she lived there, that the dog would, of course, stay outside because couldn't leave him inside that long. And there was a lead that he was attached to. He had a house, he had food, and he had water. When I was home, he was in the house with me. When I was at work, he was out in the yard.
When would you leave for work?
It differed. Sometimes I'd work morning shift, sometimes I'd work graveyard shift, evening shift.
You mean when you worked the night shift, you would leave the dog outside all night?
Yeah, that's when he would stay outside nightly.
Was that your agreement with her?
He was not supposed to be outside all night. He was crate trained. He had a nice large roomy crate in the house, and a lot of times, even when I was at work, if I felt the weather was not acceptable and it wouldn't be good for him to be outside, he wouldn't go outside.
Were you sleeping at the house every night?
For the first month or so that I had moved in, I did, and then I got a phone call from Karen telling me that the landlord had told her that he wasn't happy with the fact that someone else was staying there, because I had occasionally had a friend that I worked with stay with me, and he apparently wasn't happy about any of the situation.
Well, he wasn't unhappy with you staying in the house, just with a friend.
Well, the conversation was it was a general, he wasn't happy about any of the situation. He didn't like it. He apparently wasn't happy with Karen being away and somebody else being in the house at all.
Miss Caldwell.
I made it very specific that I didn't want any strangers in my house, Your Honor.
Right. Don't give me baloney. Did the landlord complain to you that there was this guy in the house?
Yes, ma'am, he did.
And did you tell her that?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
So you told her not to have the guy in the house?
Correct.
Right. That's different than you not staying in the house. That just says tell your boyfriend not to stay there. There's a difference, Miss Caldwell. So if she told you the boyfriend couldn't stay there, you decided to stay at his place? Is not an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what you did?
Sometimes.
Okay. So when you stayed there sometimes, that means that you went to work And when you say you went to work, you left the dog outside. And then when you went to your boyfriend's house, where did you leave the dog?
The dog would stay out.
So that the dog would be out sometimes for 24 hours at a time?
Sometimes, yes, ma'am.
That's irresponsible, Miss Caldwell. Very irresponsible. When you make an arrangement with somebody and you find yourself a boyfriend, then you call her up and you say, listen, I can't keep that part of the bargain because I now have a boyfriend. And it's very important that I sleep with him. Because if I don't sleep with him, I'll die. So you're going to have to find somebody else to take care of the dog. You don't just disregard your responsibility and allow the dog to stay outside for 24 hours at a time. We understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
You think I'm right?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think you did the wrong thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Because that's not what your answer says. I read your answer and you said she told me I couldn't stay there. I said, gee, that doesn't make sense. Here's the woman who hires you to stay in her house. Why would she tell you you couldn't stay there? She didn't tell you you couldn't stay there. She said your boyfriend couldn't stay there. When you got home in August, what did you find, Miss Allen?
We arrived home on August the 13th, Matthew and I. We drove into our driveway, and the dog was not outside. It was a very hot day, and so I thought, well, maybe she had placed the dog inside. But somehow I had this sinking feeling that moms have in their stomach. We got into the house, called for the dog. There was no dog. There was a horrible stench in the house where garbage had been piled up, dirty dishes with water that had like 1/4 of an inch of mold on the top layer of the water. Immediately I said to my son Matthew, I said, we need to go to the dog shelter. We got in the car and went to the shelter, which is 1 mile from my home, and walked in and asked if anybody had turned in a Welsh Corgi. A young man had said, we received a Corgi. What kind is it? I told him it was a Pembroke. He asked me if it was tricolored. I told him yes. He says, I think we have your dog. And of course I was ecstatic. We get back into the back. They couldn't find the dog. They asked me to wait in reception. About 10 or 15 minutes later, a woman walked out who was the manager. She was visibly upset. And she said, I am so sorry to tell you this, but at the same time that you walked in, we were euthanizing your animal, we believe. They asked if we wanted to see the body and identify it, and I said yes. I had to know.
And what about the mess that was left in the house?
There was
not an answer.
There was dirty dishes in the house.
Why?
I left because I was upset. The dog wasn't there. I couldn't find him. I couldn't get.
You left the dishes earlier. You left the dishes early. You didn't leave the dishes then. You left the mess in the house before. Why?
There's no excuse.
Where are you living now?
I'm living in an apartment.
And how much rent do you pay?
$360 a month.
$360
Yes,
times
ma'am.
5. That's $1,800. You had a bartering agreement with her. Your agreement with her was that in exchange for watching the dog and taking care of the house, you could live in her home rent-free. You didn't live up to your end of the agreement. So you have to pay her rent. Right? Sounds right to me. That's $1,800. Now, you can't put a price on your dog, but there has to be some statement to this young lady that you can't take that kind of responsibility and just cast it out the window because she finds herself a boyfriend. Right? I will put a price on it for the purposes of this litigation. The price that I'm putting on it is $2,000. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $3,800. $1,800 for rent and $2,000 because she didn't take care of her responsibility. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
We walked in, they said they had him, we were ecstatic, and then to find out that they had just put him down, I mean, right as we walked in the door.
I didn't neglect the dog.
This is my best friend.
I feel really sad about that because I have a dog and I know what it's like.
It was just somebody I could always play with.
I had actually rescued this animal from a neglectful household.
We all learn from mistakes, so I know not to go into a situation like this again.
He was just a joy.
I just don't know what kind of human could do this.
20-year-old office assistant Serena Ratcliffe and her boyfriend, 20-year-old Andre Coates, are suing their former roommate, Delilah Gonzalez, for stealing belongings such as their TV, stereo, and power tools. Delilah is countersuing for the return of her security deposit.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 306 on the calendar, the matter of Ratcliffe Coates versus Gonzalez. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
According to your complaint, you, and this is your boyfriend,
yes,
signed a lease with a defendant,
yes,
who you knew, to share an apartment together.
Yes.
It didn't work out. She left, and you claim took some of your property when she moved out. You
Yes.
want her to either turn over the property or the value of the property. Ms. Gonzalez says that you forced her out of the apartment in mid-September. She had, in fact, paid you September's rent, and she is counterclaiming for the rent that she paid, as well as harassment. She said that you forced her out. How did you know each other before you went to this apartment together?
Andre and Delilah used to work at Sears together.
Why did you ask her to leave the apartment?
She was selling and she was dealing drugs. She was doing drugs in the house. There was drugs.
What
kept
kind
in
of
the
drugs?
house. Marijuana.
When did you move in together?
We first moved in March into her apartment. Her boyfriend broke up with her after 6 years, and we felt sorry for her. She was saying that she was going to have to move. And
You moved in
all
with
that
her in
stuff.
March?
Yes.
When did you sign a lease for the new apartment?
In May.
From March until May, you never saw any evidence that she was selling drugs?
I knew that she smoked weed, but every time that she did it, I was always in the room or I was never there.
But you knew that she smoked?
Yes, I did.
So why would you rent an apartment with her?
Our name wasn't on the lease, and we felt sorry for her. I mean, she was a friend at the time, and she needed help. We were helping her out.
Baloney.
That's what you think, but...
Yes, baloney. Because if you know somebody is doing drugs, then you don't... When you're living with them, then it seems to me, if you're not
No, but
involved...
when
I'm speaking. Then it seems to me, if you're not involved in the same kind of activity, then you don't go into an apartment leased together. That doesn't sound very smart, right? And don't tell me you were doing it because you felt sorry for her.
No, in May, actually, before we moved into the new place and before we signed the new lease, we talked and said that we did not want drugs in the house. We didn't want her doing any drugs. We didn't want anything in the house, and she agreed to do that. The first night that we were in the house, she went and she sold weed out in front of our house, and we weren't even in the house for 20 minutes, and she was already smoking weed. I told her that she needed to stop doing that we agreed to not be doing any drugs in the house.
What property do you say she took out of the house when you told her to leave?
She took a TV, a surround sound system, all of my jewelry. She took a car jack stands, power tools, DVDs.
Did you call her and say, where's my stuff?
Yes, I did.
You have a
and
police
she told
report?
us that we did not deserve to have it back and hung up on me.
Is that what she said to you?
Yes.
Did you have a police report, please?
Yes, I do.
May I have it? So you called her on what date?
We called her the day that it happened when we got
What
home,
day?
on the 14th of September.
And you got her on the phone. Where did you call her?
On her cell phone.
And she said you don't deserve to have it back.
I also have pictures of what we came home to.
I'd like to see the pictures, please.
She also took panties of mine. She took our pillowcases off of our bedrooms, off of our bed set.
Okay. I'll hear you.
The first day I was there, I sensed attitude, and I asked, what's wrong? Is there something bothering you? They told me, no, nothing's wrong. 2 weeks later, it came out telling me that they don't want me there. I go, well, it's a little too late.
Why do you think that happened?
I don't know.
Did you ever have a discussion with them about drugs?
I work for a pharmacy, and
that's all right.
It's illegal, I work in a retail pharmacy, so I guess legally you would say I'm a drug dealer if I work at a pharmacy.
No, I'm not talking about dealing. I'm talking about using.
No, I don't use. No, I don't use. And I get drug tested to go to work, so naturally I wouldn't have a job if I was using drugs.
How often are you drug tested?
Randomly. If they feel that there's drugs missing in the pharmacy, we can randomly drug test me.
Okay, so what happened September 14th?
Well, previous to that, Sunday, I believe it was the 12th, she came out with a crowbar threatening me to move out of the house.
Why?
What?
Why? What did she say to you?
She told me, you're smoking weed in my house when I was outside. I was outside sitting on a seat, minding my own business.
And what did you say to her?
I said, no, I'm not, and I'm not going to sit here and yell and waste time and energy because I'm not going to get anywhere. You guys have been trying to get me out of here for the longest time, but knowing that I have nowhere else to go, I mind my own business, I pay rent and bills on time.
Okay. Did you take any property there that didn't belong to you?
No, I did not. I took my own property.
Oh, and it just happens to disappear the day that you move out?
Listen to me. You have receipts for any of your jewelry?
No, it was given to me from my grandmother, and she died. So that was the only thing that I had.
You
from
have
her.
a receipt for the television set?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
The television and the surround sound system.
Bert, will you look here and just show me, I know I'm missing it someplace, how much these things cost?
Stuff is right here.
That is just a proof of purchase that was on our account that we have at Sears.
Which is stolen property from Sears.
How is it stolen property? We have warranty for it.
How is it stolen property from Sears?
Because they all used to work there, and they would steal property from there. And I was there while I was at work. I never said anything. I was just doing my job while working.
So what you're telling me is this is all stolen
Yes.
property? Okay? The surround sound, listen to me carefully, the surround sound and the TV, stolen property.
Yes, including all the tools in the garage.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Rena Ratcliffe and her boyfriend, Andre Coates, claim former roommate Delilah Gonzalez owes for the return of their belongings. Delilah claims the items in question were stolen from a department store.
You paid for it in cash?
Correct.
Baloney.
I pay cash.
Let me tell you something. When you buy something and you pay cash, it tells what you paid for it. Show me where on your bill of sale does it show what you paid for this television and surround sound.
I don't have the purchase receipt. Those are receipts that
Thank
are
you.
put into your file.
Listen to me very carefully, sir. Did you think I was born yesterday?
No, I didn't.
I have purchased merchandise for more years than you and your girlfriend have been on this earth. And whenever you purchase something, they give you a receipt that says the date of purchase, what you purchased, how much it cost, what the tax was, how you paid for it, and a total.
The only thing that aren't on those...
Quiet! Has that been your experience?
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't have that, sir, you have no case. Do you understand?
No.
No. Well, everybody else that's paying attention gets it. Every time you make a purchase, whether you are an employee, whether you are Spider-Man, whether you are a judge, a peace officer, when you purchase something, you get a receipt that, among other things, lists how much you paid for it.
That is a receipt. The other papers that I gave you are a receipt.
Not satisfactory to me. So I have to assume that since you do not have a receipt of what you paid for the television, the surround sound, that Miss Gonzalez is absolutely correct. That you stole this merchandise from Sears.
Then how could we get that?
Well, I have no idea. Listen, this is not I've got a secret and 20 questions.
No, I'm
you
just
have a
saying,
responsibility
that's
to
proof.
produce evidence. Evidence.
That
And
is
as long-
evidence.
Not satisfactory to me, sir. So your complaint is dismissed. That's all. Now you have a counterclaim. Your counterclaim is for your security deposit.
Yes.
How much was your security deposit?
$666.
She was not able to pay any of that. We ended up having to pay her part.
Okay.
And for
Show-
one,
No.
our landlord
Show
was
me-
going to give her a 30-day notice because of everything
Do
that
you
was
see
going
my
on.
mouth moving?
Yes, I do.
Good. Do you have proof that you gave them a security deposit?
No, I do not.
Good.
I just
Proof
have...
I like. Do you have proof that you paid them September's rent?
No, I do not.
Did you pay them September's rent?
Yes, I did.
And how much was your share of September's rent that you gave them?
$330.
Is that what she gave you for September?
Okay, send your rent.
Did she give you rent for August?
Yes, but she had already been, August was done.
When?
In
The end of...
July.
And did she give you July's rent?
Yes.
When?
The
end of June.
Yeah.
So what you're telling me is for the 2 months that she lived there, she paid you rent in a timely fashion, but in the month that you threw her out, she didn't pay rent at all in September.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're telling
Because
me?
we've been having problems. And no, she was not thrown out.
No, I don't
Our
believe it. I
landlord
believe
was
that she
gonna
paid
give
you
her
the
a
rent.
30-day notice.
I believe that she paid you the rent. You gave them $330?
Yes, I always paid before the 1st.
Well, that's what they said. That's what they just testified to. On the counterclaim, since I find that you were, in fact, forced out of the apartment, there may have been good cause because I believe that you were probably smoking dope there, but I don't know. This thing sounds very unseemly to me. But they can't put you out of the apartment, and I believe that they did. They even acknowledged that they told you to get out of the apartment. So on the counterclaim,
How would you
what are
like
you,
it if somebody was doing drugs in
$330?
your
Your
house
claim is
around
dismissed.
you?
That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was either quit doing drugs and you could stay in the house or move out.
I wasn't allowed to eat their food. I wasn't allowed to park in the driveway. I wasn't allowed to have company over.
We don't want to be around it. We don't need it. We don't need cops coming to our house because she's selling drugs in front of our house.
I thought they were my friends. I did a lot for them, and for them to do this to me and drag it on, was really hurtful to me.
We worked hard for our stuff, and a stupid little like that can come in and just take our stuff and not get in trouble for it.
How are they going to sue somebody for stolen items to begin with?
Don't move in with her. She's a drug dealer, and she'll ruin your life.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Clark versus Muir. Step forward, please.
34-year-old loan officer Diana Clark is suing her ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old landscaper Brian Muir, for an unpaid loan for bail. Brian says it wasn't a loan, but rather a very nice gesture.
How old are you, Miss Clark?
34.
Do you work?
Yes, I do.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a loan officer.
Ever been married?
Yes.
Have any kids?
Yes.
How many?
2.
Do they live with you?
Yes, they do.
You their sole support?
Yes.
You're a nice-looking woman.
Thank you.
Got nice dimples. How old are you?
24.
He's too young for you.
Yeah.
Even when they're 34, they don't know much.
I agree.
But when they're 24, they know less. What do you do for a living?
I'm a landscaper.
Who do you live with?
My daughters,
How old are your daughters?
5 and 6,
Where is their mother?
not around.
For how long?
About a year now.
Who helps you care for your children while you're landscaping?
Their grandmother.
Okay. Miss Clark, according to you, you loaned Mr. Muir $500 for bail because they were going to come and arrest him unless he sort of liquidated some warrants that he had for something that I'm going to find out.
Correct.
And you were dating at the time.
Yes.
He paid you back a little bit?
A little bit.
But he didn't pay you back the whole thing, and then he stopped taking your calls. Mr. Muir says that it was a nice gesture on your part, but not a loan. That's your defense. Is that
Correct,
right?
ma'am.
Why did you need bail, sir?
Well, I had got into some trouble. I had got into a fight in my neighborhood. And the result of it, they put a warrant out for my arrest for third-degree assault and breach of peace. And
Why did they put a warrant out? Did you not go to court when you were supposed to?
not right away, ma'am.
No. Did you expect an engraved invitation this next time?
No.
Did you expect someone to come in your house in a tuxedo, perhaps, and bring you over to jail? You just decided to blow it off.
No, I was waiting until I was financially stable to take care of.
You were waiting until you felt like it.
No, I was waiting until I was financially stable.
Financially stable. And when did you think that was going to be, Mr. Muir?
Well, I had just started a new job, so I had planned on doing it as soon as possible.
How did Miss Clark find out there was a warrant outstanding for you?
It was brought up in a conversation that we were having at a friend's house.
And when you told her about the warrant, Mr. Muir, what did you say?
I just said, I have a warrant, and I have to turn myself in.
And she said?
And she said, anytime you want to turn yourself in, I'll be glad to help you out.
How much later did you call and tell her you needed her help?
It wasn't but a few days.
So a few days later you called her or you went to see her and told her, well, I'm ready to turn myself in, I need your help?
Well, I was over a friend's house, and when she came over there, I told her that I was going to turn myself in, and that's when she offered to bail me out, Your Honor.
How did you know that he needed bail money when he turned himself in?
He called me from the bail bondsman's phone.
Really?
Yes.
You forgot about that.
Actually, Your Honor, I did not call her from the bail bondsman's phone. The bail bondsman lives next door to my friend. And I had talked to him beforehand, and I had let him know that if I needed to be bonded out, that I was going to use him.
Go ahead, Miss Clark.
No, he called me from the bail bondsman's phone and said that he was at his home and he was going to be turning himself in. Could I go ahead and bail him out like I had told him I would do?
When did he make his first payments to you?
April 16th.
And when did you bail him out?
April 13th.
And how much did he give you on April 16th?
$50.
When did he make his next payment to you?
April 23rd.
How much?
$40. There was, just so you know, there wasn't a previous amount that I had loaned him also. So that part of what I have written down here was applied to what he owed me previous to that as well.
What did you lend him money for in the past?
He wanted to go back to his hometown to see his friends for his birthday.
Your Honor, if I may, the money that I did pay her back, she had brought me home to see my friends and family. The money that I did pay her back was the money that she loaned me. She never said I had to pay her back for this bail, Your Honor. I paid her back $130. That's what she loaned me when I went to Boston.
$130?
Yes, ma'am.
How much did he pay you altogether?
$230.
So you gave her $100 in interest?
No, I only gave her $130.
She says you gave her $230.
I only gave her $130.
Are you sure about
I'm positive about that.
So that if I find that this was a loan, you owe her $500, not the $370 that she says. Is that right?
That would be correct.
Good. Mr. Meir, did Miss Clark assault anybody?
No, she
No,
harassed.
just a second.
No,
Did she
ma'am.
assault anybody?
No, ma'am.
Did Miss Clark have a warrant issued for her arrest because she blew off letters from the police?
No, ma'am.
Who did? Raise your hand.
I did.
Raise your hand.
Me.
Higher. Raise your hand all the way
I
up.
did.
What makes you think that she should take care of your bail? She's a working woman. She's got 2 children that she supports. Why in the world would she pay for you and you feel no drive to pay her back as quickly as possible?
She has spent abundance of money on me. Abundance. She took me out for my birthday and spent well over $1,000. If that was the case,
foolish.
If that was the case,
Foolish,
she
because
should
I want to
want
tell
all
you
her money
something. She must see something in you that I don't.
It's the good looks, Your Honor.
Have you looked in the mirror lately?
Yes, I have.
Mr. Meir, you have 2 children, 2 little children, that you say are in your custody because their mother is off somewhere. That means that the only chance your children have of growing up to be responsible adults is if they have you as a responsible parent.
Correct.
You were foolish enough to hook up with somebody who turned out to be a non-parent and dumb enough at your age to make 2 babies. Now it's your responsibility to grow up and fly right. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $370, because that's all you're suing for. That's all. Out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you.
She should find somebody her own age and not somebody as young as me.
He's going to say anything he wants to make it look like he's a better person than he really is.
She approached me and she wanted to get together with me, and that's how it started.
Well, we met at our kids' bus stop, and it proceeded from there. Yeah, I did approach him.
To be older, you should know better.
There was a big age difference there, and I should probably not have done anything with him.
Civil engineer David Fletcher is suing his ex-girlfriend, admissions clerk Brenda Manus, for illegally cashing a check and for attorney fees. Brenda says David was stalking her.
Yes, case number 345 on the calendar in the matter of Fletcher versus Manus. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Mr. Fletcher, you and the defendant used to date.
Yes, ma'am.
And there came a time when, according to your complaint, the defendant had accused you of being unfaithful.
Yes, ma'am.
And you said to her, it's not true. Here's a blank check. I'm signing it. You take this blank check and go hire yourself a private investigator and investigate me. So far, is that right?
Yes.
So she took the blank check, she filled it out, made it payable to herself for a couple of $1,000s.
Ma'am?
Who did you make it payable to?
He made it payable to me.
Oh.
He put my name in it.
Fine. You just filled in the amount.
Yes, ma'am.
Then things didn't go well. She accused you of stalking her. You were arrested, had to hire a lawyer. Those charges were subsequently dismissed. So you want the $2,000 back from the check and the attorney's fees.
That's correct.
Ms. Main says she cashed that check and wrote in $2,000 because she had to be taught a lesson not to be such an idiot. I mean, she doesn't say that, but that's about what she said. And that she had a grounds to file a complaint for stalking because you were, in fact, stalking her and making her very uncomfortable. Was he stalking you because he wanted his money back?
He never asked for the money back, Your Honor.
Never?
No.
When, for the first time, did he ask for the money back?
I received a
let's say,
a letter
let's start from
at
the
work.
beginning. When did he give you the check?
It was end of April, first part of May.
Can I see a copy of the check, please?
Yes, ma'am. I put together this, and it's got an index with all the
Listen
things.
to
Do you
me.
just want that?
Listen to me. I'm not as young as I used to be.
Okay.
Just give me a copy of the check.
There's some other stuff stapled to it.
April 6th. But that's the date on the check. And it was cashed?
In the upper right-hand corner there, it's the 8th of April, is when it actually transpired through the bank.
2 days later. Didn't waste any time.
Nope.
What'd you do with all the money?
I paid a bill of my daughter's,
Mm-hmm.
and that's about it.
Okay, then I have here some emails. You were hell-bent to give me these things anyway. This one is dated Thursday, April 8th, 9:14 a.m. From you. No, David, I'm not going to hire a PI with your money, but I'm going to hold on to your money for a couple of months so you can sweat a little. That should be long enough to teach you a lesson on giving someone a blank check. By the way, I cashed it for $2,000, and you did have money in the account. You're lucky I didn't cash it for $10,000 like someone suggested. You lied to me about how much money was in your account, so you must not trust me. I hate liars, and once I'm lied to, I have a hard time believing anything that a person says to me in the future. How much after that did you break up with him?
We were broke up.
2 days later after he gave you the check?
Prior to the check.
You're not a nice person.
Maybe not.
Well, you're right. Well, I'm glad if somebody knows themselves. That's the first step to self-healing. I mean, you took advantage of him.
I don't feel that I did, Your Honor.
You don't feel as if you took advantage of him. He gave you this check for what reason? He gave you the check and said, I haven't been doing the wrong thing. I have been doing the right thing. Here, take this. You should have taken it, ripped it in 10 pieces and say, listen, David, it's over. I'm not interested in you. Instead, you took the check, you cashed the check, you went and bought yourself something, you paid a bill for your daughter, and then, after you told me I'm going to hold on to the money for a couple of months, that's what you said to him. So far you owe him $2,000.
Excuse me?
So far you owe him $2,000 because you said you were going to give it back to him. That's what you said in the email. That's your email. That's what you said. You said, I'm going to me. I don't care what he wrote to you. You told him that I'm going to hold on to it long enough to teach you a lesson. Did you learn your lesson?
Yes, ma'am, unfortunately.
Now, can I see when you filed stalking charges against him? Did you continue to send her letters and emails and flowers?
Well, what I'd like to do is present my evidence on this, if I could.
Listen
While we were dating, I did.
Listen to me.
When we were
Listen to me. Watch me. After she cashed this check, did you send her flowers?
The last flowers I sent her was the first or second week of April. After the check, we were broke up for like a week. We got back together, and I have emails that she has communicated with me.
When you say you got back together, did you take her out for dinner?
We went out to dinner, and I have my business partner here that came over to Gold Beach, and she'd actually went out to dinner with us.
After April 8th?
After, yes.
Okay. Now, when did you tell him that you didn't want him calling you anymore?
I can answer that.
Go ahead.
It was May 19th, and I have the last email correspondence that I actually had with her.
Can I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am. This was the last correspondence. That's when she told me that she had a boyfriend and I was cramping her style, evidently.
I don't say
May
cramping
19th.
her style.
And from that point on, I had no more contact with her, other than after I got served with a stalking order, which I got served. That was May 19th. When I had a hospital appointment, I had to have some surgery done at the hospital there. She works there, and bumped into me. And after I got done with my surgery and I got home, the next thing I know, I'm getting served with a stalking order. And that was, I hadn't saw her for almost a month.
How come you never told the police that you ripped him off for $2,000? I don't see that anywhere here.
Your Honor, I didn't rip him off for
Yes, you
$2,000.
did.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Oh, you did.
Okay.
Oh, you did.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. David Fletcher claims ex-girlfriend Brenda Manus owes for illegally cashing a check and for falsely accusing him of stalking.
Now, he didn't make you a gift, he didn't make you a loan. It was clear that he was trying to be a boyfriend and gave you this check. And initially, put your hand down. Initially, what you said was, 2 days after you cashed the check was, I'm just going to hold on to it for a couple of months to teach you a lesson not to be a fool and give somebody a blank check. Somewhere along the line, you changed your mind after you spent the money. So my question to you is, how come you didn't tell the police when you filed these charges against him, not for threatening you in any way, just he sent you emails, he sent you flowers, then he called you. How come you didn't say anywhere in any of these statements that I took $2,000 from his bank account. You didn't think that was relevant?
Nope.
No. And how come you didn't, if you thought that he was stalking you, how come you didn't say to yourself, maybe if I give him back the $2,000 that I took from him and made a fool out of him, maybe he would leave me alone and wouldn't bother me. And here's the $2,000, because he says to you in an email, why don't you just give me back my $2,000? I'll leave a deposit slip for you. What are you looking at me? Am I speaking a foreign language to you?
I would like to see that. I don't recall that.
Sure.
Thank you.
How much was your lawyer?
$712.
$712, did you say?
Yeah.
It refresh your recollection now? When he says, I'll leave you a deposit slip, please put my money back in my account. When did you do that, Miss Maines?
When did I put the money back in his account? Yeah. I did not.
And if somebody was stalking me, if someone was following me around, if someone was coming to my place of business, I would say, gee, I want to remove any irritant that might exist with that person because they feel like a fool. Not a nice person. You were right at the beginning. First statement was right. You are not. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,712. You don't abuse the courts by filing stalking petitions when you've done the wrong thing. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's mad because I filed the stalking order on him.
No, there was no stalking.
He emailed me constantly. I blocked his email.
The only part of the hateful part was the part that she told me when she had a boyfriend.
Called 2 and 3 times a week.
I emailed her back and I told her what I thought of her leading me on like that.
He would not leave me alone.
She basically wrote the check for more than she was supposed to.
He gave it to me.
It was supposed to be paid back. It wasn't paid back.
Was never asked to be returned.
There'll be no more blank checks.
And